Chapter 3104. Speaking of which, you're not the first to cause trouble for our president. Elite, the skinny old man, and Kindle gathered together. The three of them sat on the sofa in the open attic, drinking beer and chatting. But you're lucky. After all, not many of those who caused trouble for our president are still alive. Kindle and the skinny old man knew this very well. But Kindle quickly waved his hands. I'm not. I'm just going the same way as him. You don't have to deny it in a hurry. Since the president didn't kill you on the spot, he won't bother with you anymore. Elite was one of the earliest people to follow Chen Zhao, so he knew Chen Zhao quite well. Plus, his age and social experience gave him quite a bit of authority in the supernatural organization. Even Chen Zhao valued Angelite's opinion a lot. Elite seemed to be as unreliable as Chen Zhao. He would grab someone and ask if they needed insurance. Actually, he was one of the few people in the organization who could see the big picture. As the team leader, Angelite's team didn't complete the most missions, but it was the only team with a 100% completion rate. The other teams would more or less fail a few times. Elite also had a more delicate heart than Jalanash and Hallie's. He wasn't a smart person, but he could take care of everything. Every time he did a mission, he would consider all the factors. He would always choose the safest way to complete the mission. He would never resort to shortcuts. Just then, an inferior demon ran over. Mr. Elite, do you need more alcohol? No, make me a cup of tea. Elite didn't want to drink too much. They were on a plane. Elite was the kind of person who was extremely rational. He wouldn't lose his mind under any circumstances. Just then Phantus suddenly ran out of the cockpit. Where's Chen? Phantus asked anxiously. In the bedroom. Elite stood up. What happened? The radar detected unidentified flying objects ahead. A lot. Just then, Chen Zhao walked down from upstairs. Phantus's voice wasn't soft. He'd already heard her. Phantus, what's going on? Phantus repeated the story again. Unidentified flying objects? UFO? Or a flock of birds? Or a plane or something? It might be a flock of birds, but there are a lot of them. Can't we go around it? Those things are hovering above our destination. There's no way to avoid them, Phantus said. Mr. Chen, it should be the 100-Vault Islands test. The skinny old man said. What test? Isn't it disgusting? Chen Zhao turned to the skinny old man. Generally speaking, almost all people who go to the 100-Vault Islands have to rely on their own ability to go in, unless they are logistics personnel. If a psychic goes in by means of transportation, whether it is a plane or a ship, they will be tested or attacked. How far are we from our destination? About a few hundred kilometers, Phantus said. Chen Zhao picked up the phone. Old Zhang, I'm almost at the Baiku Islands. Oh, Zhang Tianyi simply replied. I recently bought a plane. Oh, Zhang Tianyi's tone was still the same. I heard that there will be a super tsunami in the Baiku Islands today. What? Chen Zhao, what are you doing? Zhang Tianyi suddenly yelled like someone who had just woken up from a dream. If my new plane crashes, I can guarantee that the 100-Vault Islands will definitely sink into the Pacific Ocean. Fuck, is it hard for you to get rid of those flying things? Then how embarrassing would it be for me to sink the 100-Vault Islands just like that? Fuck, Zhang Tianyi cursed. A few minutes later Phantus replied. Those UFOs are already gone. Phantus continued piloting her plane. The skinny old man looked at Chen Zhao. Mr. Chen, who did you call just now? You solved the problem so quickly. Someone important, Chen Zhao answered casually. The skinny old man was a bit suspicious. After all, Chen Zhao's tone didn't seem like he was calling someone important. It seemed more like he was threatening them. The journey was basically smooth. Only at the end of the journey did a group of UFOs appear. But they were quickly dealt with. Phantus piloted the plane steadily. It took off steadily and landed steadily. One had to admit that this was the most stable plane Chen Zhao had ever taken. Although there were still bumps during takeoff and landing, it wasn't as violent as other commercial planes. The central island of the 100-Vault Islands was the largest and the main competition venue. There were hundreds of islands of various sizes around it. There were almost all kinds of facilities on the island. It was almost a vacation spot. Even when there weren't any competitions, it was still very lively. However, it wasn't just for ordinary tourists. Only spiritualists or people on the fringe of the spiritual world could be treated here. Thus, magic was very popular in the 100 Vault Islands. The magic shops here weren't hidden at all. It was also the only place where you could use magic in public. Of course, it wasn't a fight. It was illegal to fight in public in the 100 Vault Islands. In fact, it was illegal all over the world. If there were no personal grudges, they wouldn't interfere. If there was nothing, they could go to the arena to solve it. Anyway, fighting wasn't right. Chen Zhao got off the plane and looked at the empty airport. There wouldn't be any flights here during the competition. Just then, someone came from the distance. It was Zhang Tianyi. Chen Zhao walked up with a smile. But before Zhang Tianyi could reach Chen Zhao, he suddenly cast a spell. Law of the Three Pure Ones. Tao of Nature, destroy evil. A beam of golden light hit Chen Zhao. Everyone else was terrified. Wasn't that Celestial Master Zhang? Why did he attack Chen Zhao as soon as he saw him? Did they have a grudge against each other? Everyone felt cold as they stared at Chen Zhao and Zhang Tianyi in fear. They wouldn't start fighting in public, would they? Plus, if they really did fight here, Zhang Tianyi would definitely be fine. No one in the world would dare to catch him. But Chen Zhao might not. They might even be dragged into this as well. By then, he wouldn't be able to participate in the competition. He might even have to go to jail. But Chen Zhao still smiled and took Zhang Tianyi's spell. Are you angry now? What? I'm full of anger. Zhang Tianyi pointed at Chen Zhao and cursed. You're the only one who wants the dignity of the strong? Don't the organizers want it? Is it fun to embarrass us like this? The point is you invited me here. Chapter 3105. Chen Zhao patted the mark on his chest, still smiling. Zhang Tianyi pointed at Chen Zhao. I want to hit you. Chen Zhao glanced at Yang Guo, who was beside Zhang Tianyi. Suddenly, Chen Zhao pulled Yang Guo in front of him and kicked him away. You traitor, how dare you appear before me? Did you forget that I'm a dog? If you appear before me again, I'll break your legs. Yang Guo clutched his stomach dumbfounded. Speaking of which, you can fight with my grandmaster. Do you have to hurt the innocent? Isn't the past already settled? Seeing Chen Zhao attack his disciple, Zhang Tianyi immediately looked at the people who'd come with Chen Zhao. In the end, he saw the skinny old man immediately. He also grabbed the air. The skinny old man was uncontrollably caught in Chen Zhao's palm. He basically didn't know all of Chen Zhao's subordinates. The only one he was familiar with was West. However, West wasn't here this time. So Chen Zhao picked the one he didn't like the most. Slap, slap. Zhang Tianyi slapped the skinny old man twice. You don't look like a good person. Tell me, what bad things have you done? Chen Zhao looked back and was immediately enraged. You dared to hit my people? With that, Chen Zhao charged at Yang Guo. Yang Guo was very upset. He could only cover his head and curl up into a ball. Grandmaster, you should at least help me out of this predicament first. Why aren't you helping me at all? You're thinking about revenge first. Chen Zhao gave Yang Guo a series of punches. Zhang Tianyi didn't go easy either. He hit the skinny old man a few times. Try hitting him again. Chen Zhao mentioned Yang Guo. Yang Guo's head was almost swollen from Chen Zhao's beating. Let go of my disciple. Otherwise, I won't go easy on you. Let go of him first. Otherwise, I won't go easy on him. Yang Guo and the skinny old man were both very upset. You guys aren't going to go easy on each other. Don't just say it, okay? Why are you taking it out on me? The skinny old man was even more upset. What did this have to do with me? Why did you hit me? That's enough. You two are at the top. Do you have to bully a kid? 23rd Blood Mary's voice came from behind Chen Zhao. Hi, 23rd generation. Chen Zhao let go of Yang Guo and greeted him warmly. At this moment, the 23rd generation was about 10 years old. However, she was floating in midair. Bader was with Xi. He nodded at Chen Zhao in greeting. Zhang Tianyi also threw the skinny old man away. The skinny old man covered his face, looking aggrieved. Just because you are the number one person in the world, you can bully others like this? Alright, you can. I'm a magnanimous person, and I won't hold it against you. It's all this asterisk shoal's fault. Zhang Tianyi said unhappily, pointing at Chen Zhao. What happened to him? Yeah, what's wrong with me? I've only just landed, and you're already criticizing me. Do you not welcome me? I'm not welcome to leave now. When he was in the sky, he said that if I don't put away the star array, he will sink the 100-vault islands. This bastard will definitely do such a thing. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. The skinny old man, Kendall, and Quinn all stared at Chen Zhao in shock. They didn't expect Chen Zhao to have such powerful connections. He could actually argue with Zhang Tianyi. Chen Zhao looked back at Elite and Hallie's. You guys find a hotel. I'm going to talk to old Zhang. Just then the skinny old man Kendall and Quinn walked over. Mr. Chen, we're leaving too. Goodbye, Chen Zhao said with a smile. At the same time, he glanced at the skinny old man. He's not your subordinate? Zhang Tianyi asked, pointing at the skinny old man. No. He's also a contestant. I just dropped him off on the way. Zhang Tianyi looked at the skinny old man, and then at Chen Zhao. Why didn't you say so earlier? Say what? The skinny old man looked aggrieved. Yang Guo felt even more aggrieved. Which means, I got beaten up for nothing? Then why didn't you say so? Zhang Tianyi looked at the skinny old man again. The skinny old man felt even more aggrieved. Can't you give me a chance to explain? Of course, there were some things that he didn't dare to say. Especially not in front of Chen Zhao. Would he dare to say that he had nothing to do with that man? Wouldn't that be suicidal? Chen Zhao rolled his eyes at Zhang Tianyi. How fake. You beat him up and still want to deny it? Isn't it obvious? The skinny old man didn't say anything, because he was afraid of the two of them. He couldn't afford to offend either of them. Although he got beaten up for nothing, it might not be a bad thing for him. Zhang Tianyi thought for a moment. He seemed to have gone overboard just now. He'd beaten the old man up indiscriminately. Zhang Tianyi searched his body and found a strange grass bracelet. He tossed it to the skinny old man. This is for you. Treat it as compensation. The skinny old man's withered heart was finally nourished a little. He didn't know what this grass bracelet was. But the magical wave on it couldn't be faked. It must be a priceless treasure. Then Chen Zhao, Zhang Tianyi, and 23rd left. Zhang Tianyi changed his outfit. After all, he was too famous in the spiritual world. If he just walked on the street casually like this, there was 100% chance that he would be recognized. Plus, there were spiritualists everywhere. The three of them sat on chairs in the open-air restaurant. Is this really a private island? Chen Zhao looked at the street. 90% of the people were spiritualists. It felt unreal. Compared to the world outside the island, this was like a different world. Yes, this is the property of the Egler family, 23rd said. 23rd generation said. They used to be a wealthy family in Europe, but now the Egler family has declined. The Bhikkhu Islands are the only remaining property of the Egler family. Of course, if it's just money, they don't lack it. Their family members can be listed on the Forbes Rich list every year. However, there aren't many psychics in their family. They can only rely on hiring psychics to maintain the family's security. The Egler family doesn't have any spiritualists now. Yes, right now, there are no more than 5 awakened spiritualists in their family. 2 of them are still children, and the other 3 are considered unimportant characters in the spiritual world. However, their wealth is enough to make everyone drool, so they can only hire spiritualists to protect the safety of their family and property. Is their decline just because their people are weak? Chen Zhao didn't believe that a wealthy family in the spiritual world would decline for no reason. That's just one aspect. There are basically 3 reasons for a family's decline: foreign invasion, lack of potential, and lack of wealth. Chapter 3106. Magical beasts with human contracts could even be seen everywhere in the 100 Treasury Islands. They followed their masters around freely. So Chen Zhao didn't need to hide the underlings anymore. If he brought it along casually, he wouldn't attract any attention at all. Of course, there were quite a lot of underlings following Chen Zhao. There were more than 10 of them. They followed Chen Zhao into shops of various sizes. She carried Chen Zhao's things and served him tea. Chen Zhao turned into another shop. This one was different from the magic shops he'd been to before. Regular magic shops would have a sinister aura. This one was bright and spacious. It looked like it was selling high-end products. But in reality, it was also a magic shop. Seeing Chen Zhao enter, the salesperson immediately walked over. "Sir, how may I help you?" Chen Zhao looked at the products in the glass cabinet. These are pastries, right? Or did I get it wrong? Smiling, the salesperson said. More accurately, they're magic pastries. Oh, our shop doesn't prohibit magical creatures from entering. Are those little gnomes your contracted magical beasts? You can let them come in and sit or rest. Chen Zhao looked at the underlings standing at the door. Come in and take a seat. The underlings immediately obeyed and ran in. It wasn't that they were tired. In fact, even though underlings looked small, their stamina was actually quite good. If they were empty-handed, they could probably run a marathon. Sometimes, Chen Zhao would let them run to the crypt demon's nest. A round trip was as easy as drinking water for them. Their only weakness was their short lifespan. An underling couldn't live more than 20 years. It was Chen Zhao's order that they'd run in so quickly. The salesperson clearly knew how to do this. If Chen Zhao came in alone, he'd probably just look around. But if Chen Zhao's contracted magical beast came in, he'd probably be too embarrassed to just look around. Sir, apart from the exceptional taste of these magical pastries, they also have the effect of eliminating fatigue and restoring mana. There are also some advanced magical pastries that can even heal injuries and remove curses. Aren't these magic potions? Yes, but no, the salesperson said. The salesperson said, the first is the taste. Sir, you must have drunk magic potions before. You should know that the best taste of magic potions is basically drinking fresh water. If it's some special potions, in order to maintain a strong effect, the taste is basically no different from drinking water. Chen Zhao nodded. The salesperson continued. Magic pastries are mainly about the taste. There are many flavors, and they're definitely 100, even 1,000 times better than magic potions. Secondly, its efficacy. Although it can't compare to the best magic potions, it's still much better than ordinary magic potions. Isn't it just pastries made with magic ingredients? Chen Zhao felt that the salesperson was exaggerating. It's not as simple as cooking. At this moment, a dissatisfied voice sounded. A woman wearing a chef's hat walked in. The woman was slightly plump and looked like she was in her 30s. However, she wasn't plump. Instead, she looked plump. Chen Zhao turned around and looked at the woman. The woman was also observing him. You look like you eat magic ingredients often. Chen Zhao touched his cheek. You can tell. You have an obscure aura on you. This aura represents the magic ingredients you've eaten. However, the magic ingredients you use are all cooked simply, so you don't release the magic and life force in them. This causes the aura to be huge and mottled. If you can completely release the life force and magic and integrate it into your body, you can greatly increase your cultivation and lifespan. Chen Zhao understood. This meant that the magic ingredients contained special energy that could be converted into life force and magic. The magic ingredients he'd eaten in the past hadn't really been absorbed by him. This energy hadn't completely dissipated either. Instead, it was hidden in his body. How come I didn't notice? Do you have special magic? I'm a magic spiritual chef. You can think of it as a gourmet and chef in the spiritual world, and the best kind. Then how do I release the life force and magic of the ingredients I've eaten? How about we make a deal? What deal? Give me the source of the magic ingredients you've eaten, and I'll help you release the magic and life force in your body. My magic ingredients are all magical beasts that I hunt myself. I rear a few and don't sell them. I'll pay a high price, the woman said. I don't lack money, Chen Zhao replied with a smile. The woman stared at him. Do you know that if you can release the power of the magic ingredients, your power will multiply or even multiply? Chen Zhao smiled and shook his head. I don't believe you. How about we make a bet? The woman was also very confident. Bet on what? If I can increase your power by at least 5 times, you'll provide me with magic ingredients for a long time. What if I can't? The woman shrugged. Then I'll release the power of the magic ingredients for free. Power is very abstract. How are you going to measure it? With a confident expression, the woman said to the salesperson, Go get Arcus. The salesperson quickly called out a super fatty who was 2 meters tall from the kitchen. This super fatty was estimated to be 300 kilograms, almost turning into a ball. Attack him with all your strength. You can use any attack, the woman said. pointing at the fatty. All my strength. Here. Are you sure? You want to use an area of effect spell? The woman was a bit hesitant. No, I'm just very confident in my power. I'm afraid that I'll kill him and destroy your shop. Don't worry. Arcaz's body is very special. Almost no attack can hurt him. Chun Zhao narrowed his eyes and looked at the fatty before him. He also seemed to have no attributes. I'm an enhancer. Chun Zhao clenched his fists. We have the same body. I know what's special about it. He can resist most magic, but he can't defend against physical attacks. It's the same for him. His physical resistance allows him to possess a superhuman physique. Of course, he has sacrificed all of his attack power. That's why his defense is 10 times stronger than an enhancer of the same level. But he has no attack power at all. The woman was very confident. After all, she'd seen Arcaz's powerful side. Rather than saying it was powerful, it was more accurate to call it extreme defense. Arcaz had once faced an adult dragon's attack, and then remained unharmed. Chapter 3107. Sis, what did you call me for? Arcaz looked a bit naive. As if his brain wasn't working, the woman pointed at Chun Zhao. He wants to punch you and then give you good food. Oh, Arcaz looked at Chun Zhao. Come on. Forget it. Chun Zhao shook his head, smiling. Give me 2 magic pastries. Wait, didn't we agree to a bet? How can we just let it go like this? Chun Zhao was about to turn around and leave when Arcaz blocked his way. His limbs were short and thick, but he wasn't slow. After all, he was an enhancer. His body was much stronger than normal people. The woman was very confident in Arcaz's abilities. Chun Zhao pressed his hand on Arcaz's big belly. Both Arcaz and the woman froze. Bang! Arcaz's belly suddenly shrank, like a stone thrown into a calm lake, causing ripples to appear. Then Arcaz spat out a mouthful of blood. Ouch! It hurts! It hurts! It hurts! The woman was frightened. Arcaz had a serious illness when he was young, and had suddenly gained an extremely strong resistance. But his intelligence would forever stay at that age. The woman hurried over to help Arcaz up. However, Arcaz's physique was simply too big. Arcaz, how are you? What happened? It hurts. Arcaz clutched his belly and rolled around on the ground. The woman looked at Chun Zhao angrily. What did you do to Arcaz? You told me to hit him. Did you forget? The woman looked at Chun Zhao angrily. Chun Zhao still had a smile on his face. How is it? Can you calculate my strength? The woman couldn't say anything. She'd thought that it would be the same as before. Arcaz could estimate a person's strength range and give them a rough number. But this person clearly wasn't in Arcaz's range. What made her feel the most helpless was that she'd asked Chun Zhao to hit Arcaz. Now she couldn't even take revenge. But the person she was most afraid of was Chun Zhao. She didn't know how he'd done it. After all, an adult dragon couldn't even kill Arcaz with its claws. No, it couldn't even hurt him. Arcaz could even take a hot bath under the dragon's breath. But Chun Zhao just pressed on Arcaz's belly. He did not even see him use any strength. But Arcaz actually vomited blood. She didn't understand how Chun Zhao had done it. Can I go now? Wait. The woman suddenly stopped him. Is there anything else I can teach you? Don't you want me to help you completely release the power of the ingredients you've eaten? Our bet doesn't seem to stand. You can try the effect first. With that, the woman suddenly slapped Chun Zhao's chest. Chun Zhao didn't stop her. The moment the woman's palm landed on Chun Zhao's chest, Chun Zhao felt a strange power in his body being activated. Next, blood oozed out from his mouth, nose, and ears. The woman took a few steps back. This power was gathering above Chun Zhao's head, slowly revealing itself like a ferocious beast. In the East, this thing is called Tao Tai. If you defeat it, you can obtain all of its power. The woman did it on purpose. Releasing and absorbing the power of the magic ingredients was a process. Releasing a small amount of power each time. After a few or a dozen times, the power of the magic ingredients would be completely released, and then absorbed. But this time, the woman was clearly taking revenge on Chun Zhao. She released all the power of the magic ingredients in Chun Zhao's body at once. But soon she realized a problem. The power released from Chun Zhao's body did not stop. It kept releasing. Soon the woman's expression changed. The Tao Tai was forming a physical body. The Tao Tai's body soon burst out of the shop. It was still growing bigger. He couldn't help it. He had eaten too many things in the past. He had also swallowed a lot of things alive. What kind of monster hadn't he swallowed before? The things he had swallowed seemed to be judged as ingredients too. Soon, dark clouds began to gather in the sky, and the sea in the distance surged with huge waves. The woman's expression changed to one of shock. What was going on? What exactly did this guy give out? Chen Zhao scratched his head. Something incredible seemed to have come out. Was this the materialization of what he had eaten in the past? The woman was about to faint. Just then, a figure descended from the sky. When the woman saw the person descending from the sky, she was so scared that her face turned pale. Celestial Master Zhang. She had actually alarmed him. Oh no. I'm so dead. I've caused such a huge commotion. Zhang Tianyi charged toward Chen Zhao with a furious expression. What are you doing? In Zhang Tianyi's eyes, this was undoubtedly Chen Zhao's doing. Apart from Chen Zhao, there was no other suspect at the scene. Chen Zhao chuckled. In principle, I didn't do it. Then did you do it or not? Chen Zhao laughed awkwardly again. This thing came out of my body. Zhang Tianyi's face darkened. So you did it? I don't care. Clean it up. Chen Zhao looked at the 100-meter-tall monster before him. A strange thought popped up in his mind. This thing came out of his body. What was it? Excrement? Or something else? Whatever. I don't want to think so much. I'm disgusting myself. Bang. The Tao Tai in front of Chen Zhao was suddenly sent flying. But after flying for 100 meters, it was pulled back. Bang. It was sent flying again and pulled back again. This happened over a dozen times. The monster lay on the ground. The woman sucked in a breath of cold air. Chen Zhao didn't do anything. The Tao Tai was sent flying back and forth several times. Chen Zhao suddenly looked at the woman. Is defeating it enough? Destroy it, the woman said. But she looked at the Tao Tai worriedly. She had helped many people with this ritual. There were also some powerful spirit controllers who could defeat the Tao Tai in their bodies in one go. But this was her first time releasing such a powerful and terrifying Tao Tai. She had never seen it before. This Tao Tai had already completely materialized. It was even possible that it had developed sentience. But it wasn't a real creature. So, it didn't have the fatal weaknesses of normal creatures. To destroy such a monster was also an impossible task. At least, in her opinion, it was impossible. The woman was a bit regretful now. If she had known that Chen Zhao would release a Tao Tai of this level, she wouldn't have dared to do so. She wouldn't dare to release it even if she was beaten to death. What did that man eat? Chapter 3108. Suddenly, the Tao Tai opened its bloody mouth, and the surrounding air began to condense in its mouth. Chen Zhao's eyes widened. Fuck, wasn't this his ultimate move, Neutron Star? Damn it. Zhang Tianyi immediately retreated. Of course, he also recognized Chen Zhao's ultimate move. Chen Zhao could no longer joke around with the truth. If this thing was thrown out, the whole street would be gone. At that time, he would probably have to cough up blood. Bang! Chen Zhao suddenly disappeared. The next moment, Taotia's lower jaw was hit heavily. The neutron star that was still brewing instantly exploded in Taotia's mouth. But the neutron star's power had yet to spread. Taotia's body was suddenly compressed and twisted. Chen Zhao clenched his fists. In the blink of an eye, the Taotia's body was completely condensed into a ball. Chen Zhao opened his mouth and stuffed the ball into it, swallowing it. It seemed to taste good. Yes, there was indeed a tremendous amount of mana and life power fusing into his body. However, what disappointed Chen Zhao was that the massive magic power and life force in the eyes of others was actually nothing. It didn't improve Chen Zhao much. In fact, it couldn't even be called improvement. This was probably the effect of Chen Zhao's cultivation over the past few days. The woman looked at Chen Zhao in confusion. Why wasn't Chen Zhao reacting at all? Logically speaking, after completely absorbing the Taotia's power, the Taotia's body would be destroyed. He should have an extremely violent reaction. But Chen Zhao didn't react at all. Who is that fatty? Did you knock him down? Zhang Tianyi pointed to Arcas, who was lying not far away, and asked. That fatty has the same constitution as me. Chen Zhao had said it casually, But Zhang Tian immediately showed great interest. When the woman saw Zhang Tianyi rushing towards her brother, she immediately stepped forward. Celestial Master. Who is he to you? Zhang Tianyi could tell that this woman was trying to stop him from approaching Arcas. My younger brother. I want to take him as my disciple, Zhang Tianyi said. The woman was a little surprised. Are you sure you're not joking with me? I will take it seriously. Celestial Master, are you serious? Do you see how I'm not serious? Zhang Tianyi's idea was very simple. He had the same constitution as Chen Zhao. This meant that he had the same chance to become strong as Chen Zhao. He wouldn't ask for the same height as Chen Zhao. As long as he reached the Shangqing realm, then this investment would not be a loss. Zhang Tianyi knew very well how difficult it was to cultivate the strengthening element. After all, the first step for a strengthening type was to break through the limits of one's physical body. However, if he really reached the Shangqing realm, although he didn't have the fancy methods of other cultivators. However, in terms of combat power, they would be superior to other cultivators of the same level. This was what Mount Longhu lacked right now. The Dao techniques of Mount Longhu had never been known for their offensive power. Do you agree? I agree, of course I agree. The woman was overjoyed, but then she became worried. Celestial Master, my brother Arcas only knows how to strengthen, and he specializes in defense. It's fine. I like strengthening. Zhang Tianyi waved his hand and glanced at Chen Zhao. Zhang Tianyi looked at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao, you have to pay for this. Find her for compensation. She is the main culprit. I'm not blind. This thing came out of your body. She was the one who summoned that thing. Zhang Tianyi was stunned. Did you summon that thing from his body? Zhang Tianyi didn't believe it. After all, he had seen this woman's strength. She wasn't even first-rate, let alone something like that from Chen Zhao's body. He asked for it, the woman immediately said, pointing at Chen Zhao. Zhang Tianyi looked at the woman deeply, and then turned to Chen Zhao. What do you say now? You proposed the bet, and you lost. How do I know if your strength increased by 5 times? You can ask him if that thing can increase my strength by 5 times, Chen Zhao said, pointing at Zhang Tianyi. The woman looked at Zhang Tianyi. Zhang Tianyi shook his head. That thing indeed can't increase his strength by 5 times. It can't even increase by 1%. Zhang Tianyi didn't know what bet they had. However, it was clear that the price to increase Chen Zhao's strength by 5 times was immeasurable. Chen Zhao, you're already so rich. This compensation is nothing to you. I'll put it on your tab. No. Chen Zhao shook his head. Do you know what's fun for rich people? Zhang Tianyi rolled his eyes at Chen Zhao. The fun for rich people is that they can choose to compensate or not, while the poor can only choose not to compensate. So I won't compensate. Chen Zhao smiled. Goodbye. The woman looked at her destroyed shop gloomily. It's okay, Zhang Tianyi comforted. It's just a material thing. It's not a big deal. The woman wanted to cry. More importantly, I haven't paid back my loan. Celestial Master, do you want to borrow money? It's all that asterisk Shoal's fault. I'll go get the money for you now. Zhang Tianyi turned and left. 3 days before the competition, Chen Zhao received Zhang Tianyi's notice to have a small meeting. Of course, it was called a meeting, but it was actually just a meeting to get to know each other. The location was on the rooftop of a building. Chen Zhao was the last to arrive. Apart from an old man covered in red tattoos, everyone else was present. Chen Zhao knew the others or had seen them before. Bifla, Zhang Tianyi, and the 23rd generation Blood Mary were all old acquaintances. Chen Zhao had met perfected Wushu and perfected Qingping before. They weren't close, but they weren't strangers either. The top cultivators of China and Zhang Tianyi had formed the 3 pillars of Taoism. They represented the 3 holy lands of Taoism: Dragon Tiger Mountain, Kunlun Mountain, and Mao Mountain. Bifla was Chen Zhao's most familiar and even closest friend. The 2 of them had a lot in common, and they were also the people who interacted the most. Chen Zhao had also met John Sr. and talked to him a bit. They weren't friends, but they weren't complete strangers either. He was the only one who wasn't in Shangqing, but he couldn't be ignored. If Zhang Tianyi was publicly recognized as the top expert in the spiritual world, then John Sr., was the most respected figure in the spiritual world. Chen Zhao didn't know why Zhang Sr. wasn't in Shangqing, but Chen Zhao believed that Shangqing's barrier wasn't a reason to restrict him. So Chen Zhao wouldn't underestimate Zhang Sr. In fact, Chen Zhao couldn't underestimate anyone here. The only stranger he hadn't even heard of was the old shaman. In that case, it could only be the old shaman with all sorts of tattoos all over his body. The old shaman had a hunched back and wrinkles all over his face. His eyes were white and looked like cataracts. He held a wooden walking stick in his hand. Apart from Chen Zhao, the average age of everyone here was over 100 years old. But this old shaman looked the most like he had 1 foot in the grave. The old shaman turned to look at Chen Zhao, who had gone up to the rooftop. Young people nowadays really don't know manners. They let so many old people stand here in the cold wind. Chapter 3109. It's good for an old man to get some fresh air. His bones will rust if he stays at home all day, Chen Zhao said, chuckling. The old shaman snorted and tapped the ground with the bottom of his walking stick. At that moment, Chen Zhao felt the ground shake. It was as if his soul was about to be pulled out of his body. It was true. His soul was about to leave his body. Chen Zhao's eyes widened, and he forcefully retracted his soul. At the same time, Chen Zhao's small world pressed down on the old shaman. Slap! The old shaman's body turned into a pile of mud. Chen Zhao rubbed his forehead and looked at the old shaman's body in shock. No way. So weak. He hadn't even used his full strength. It was just a casual attack. This old man was simply too weak. But just then, the old shaman's body started reconstructing. Even his clothes returned to normal. Chen Zhao sucked in a cold breath. Is this guy also an immortal? He could still come back to life after being smashed into meat paste. Very soon, the old shaman was back to normal. Very powerful kid. The old shaman wasn't angry that Chen Zhao had killed him once. Chen Zhao didn't feel any hostility from him. It seemed like he was just testing him. But he'd lost a life just to test him. Did he really have to do this? While the old shaman approved of Chen Zhao also approved of the old shaman. Everything else aside, just that soul shock alone. If he was caught off guard, even he would fall for it. In fact, Chen Zhao had already been hit. There was also the resurrection from the dead. Chen Zhao didn't see anything wrong with it. Old senior, did you just come back to life? The old shaman chuckled. That's my secret. If people find out, I'll be in danger. Chen Zhao shrugged. Since the old shaman didn't want to talk about it, he wouldn't ask. Chen Zhao was curious, but it involved the old shaman's secret. There was no need to get to the bottom of it. Okay, everyone's here. I'll talk about the first round, Zhang Tianyi said. Zhang Tianyi said, currently, there are a total of 3,300 contestants. Among them, about 300 are very outstanding and have qualified for the first match. The remaining 3,000 contestants need to participate in the first match. This year is a special year. Are we going to change the rules of the competition or the old rules? Mary, the 23rd generation blood, asked. New competition event. Zhang Tianyi said. The first round is a challenge. Now. Challenge what? We are the judges. Zhang Tianyi glanced at the crowd. Everyone was speechless. 23rd Gen rolled his eyes and said, Are you joking with us? I'm not joking. I'm serious. Then how do we fight? Are you sure which contestants can pass? There are 2 types of challenges. One is a one-on-one challenge, while the other is a group challenge. Before the competition begins, I will let them choose. Those who choose the one-on-one challenge will be my responsibility. As for the others, they will be divided into 7 groups. Each group will face a judge. In other words, you will have to face the siege of hundreds of peak-level cultivators. Facing hundreds of top-notch cultivators alone. Interesting. The old shaman let out a strange laugh. You can't kill people or use large-scale attacks. Zhang Tianyi looked at Chen Zhao. Especially you. Be careful. Also, don't go all out. Those little guys can't handle it. The old shaman looked at Zhang Tianyi with some surprise. He didn't remind the others, only Chen Zhao. Did he think that Chen Zhao was stronger than the others? The old shaman didn't know Chen Zhao. He had only heard about it from Zhang Tianyi before the competition this time. There would be a young, strong person who would be the judge of the previous world supernatural competition. The old shaman didn't think too much about it. He just wanted to test Chun Zhao at the beginning, to confirm and acknowledge Chun Zhao's strength. The old shaman looked at the others. He realized that the others didn't seem surprised at all. They all seemed to approve of it. Puffed. Youngsters nowadays are really amazing. Chun Zhao smiled at the old shaman. Chun Zhao, is it okay for you to split 800 contestants? Aren't we going to split it equally? They're all strong, but their actual combat ability can't be calculated that way. Maybe some of them are unbeatable against one person, but they can't even handle 100 people, Zhang Tianyi said. Fine. Chun Zhao wasn't modest. Remember, don't be too ruthless. Then you set a standard for me. Those who can take one move from you will pass. You can decide how much strength to use. Zhang Tianyi didn't know how much strength Chun Zhao needed to use. Okay, that's all for the first round. Let's go. Zhang Tianyi waved his hand. Chun Zhao, let's go together. Baifla and Chun Zhao left together. After leaving the rooftop, Baifla said, Chun Zhao, there are 6 people from the fire worship sect participating in the world supernatural competition this time. If you meet them, go easy on them. Oh, okay. If you meet my 2 people, go easy on them too. Chun Zhao and Baifla didn't have the awareness of a fair competition at all. Before the competition, they started exchanging benefits. There was no psychological burden at all. As soon as they left the building, the 23rd generation Blood Mary descended from the sky. Chun Zhao, Baifla, if you meet people from the Scarlet Church, remember to go easy on them. Chun Zhao and Baifla immediately promised that there wouldn't be any problems. The 3 exchanged benefits again. Then, Old Zhang came. Then perfected Qingping and perfected Wushu came too. Then Old Shaman and Zhang Tianyi came too. Chun Zhao couldn't help but sigh. As expected, no one who could reach Shangqing was a good person. Being thick-skinned and shameless was a basic operation. They all accepted the exchange of benefits naturally. Oh, I don't know your people, Chun Zhao said. How can I go easy on them? People from the fire worship sect are easy to recognize, Baifla said. When they fight, they all use a type of fire spell. Their bodies will ignite with black flames. I'll have my people use the Shangqing record when the battle starts. Anyway, the Taoist priest you see with many golden talismans around him is a disciple of Dragon Tiger Mountain. Then I'll let my Mao Mountain disciples use the true art of Qingyuan mystic art. The true art of Qingyuan mystic art is a spell of the Taoist war god Erling Perfected Lords. Its characteristic is that it opens a heavenly eye between the eyebrows. All of them described the characteristics of the spells their disciples used. Chun Zhao thought about it. An elite and helist characteristics, strengthening and speed spells? Death spells? These were their characteristics, but others could also use 2 types of spells. Speed and death magic, in the strengthening system, were not unheard of. This made things difficult for Chun Zhao. Chapter 3110. An elite and Hallis didn't have any common features. In the end, Chun Zhao could only make them wear something special on the day of the competition. Of course, if they were in Chun Zhao's group, then it wouldn't matter. Then it didn't matter, but the grouping was random. Fortunately, everyone worked together, so the first round was fine. But everyone was casual in the first round. As the number of participants decreased, they wouldn't control the competition like now. 3 days passed quickly. Chun Zhao was in charge of the first round. Island 98 was the largest. It was the largest island apart from the main island of the Biku Islands. The judges of the first round were all shady. But Zhang Tianyi still made a request to each judge. They could let each other's disciples win. But they couldn't purposely eliminate participants with potential. The reason was simple. Out of thousands of people, the number of disciples who could pass was too small. It wouldn't affect the overall situation. But if they purposely eliminated a participant with potential, the standard of the competition would be greatly reduced. Take the supernatural organization's competition, for example. This was because everyone's strength was generally low. Even Chun Zhao and the others weren't interested. Not to mention the others. Only the low-level contestants were unusually excited. But in the eyes of others, they were just chickens pecking at each other. The world supernatural competition was a symbol of the highest standards. So, without high-level participants, the competition would be useless. Of course, if there was a high-level participant who wanted to die and wanted to have a 1v1 duel with the referee, then the referee would be able to win. Then no one would let him do as he pleased. The Bhikkhu Islands was a special place, because it was in the area where the last spiritual tide had erupted. So the climate was affected too. Although the spiritual tide had receded, the climate hadn't recovered. Almost every island had a different climate and environment. Island 98, on the other hand, had two extreme climates. It was already June, but it was still winter on Island 98. It was covered in snow. In October, Island 98 would become scorching hot again. The temperature would be over 50 degrees Celsius. Island 98 was about 1,000 square kilometers. It was already very big among the islands. Before noon, all 800 participants landed on the island. Before the first round ended, it was noon the next day. Or if there were only 200 contestants left, the remaining contestants would directly advance to the next round, and the first round would end. Before that, if anyone left Island 98 without permission, they would be eliminated immediately. In a cave on Island 98, a few people were hiding there. The competition did not have many restrictions, and the competition was a free-for-all. Contestants were allowed to attack each other. Therefore, participants who were familiar with each other, whether they were from the same sect or friends, would choose to form a group. The one hiding here was a contestant from the European House of Dancer. Their luck was pretty good. Out of the 8 participants, 5 of them were assigned to the same venue. Jasmine, what's our strategy for this match? Everyone looked at their young miss, the genius of the Dancer family, the eldest daughter of the current family leader, and also the first in line to inherit the Dancer family. Among the 5, there were 2 middle-aged men. Not only were they competitors, they were also the bodyguards that the clan leader had arranged to protect Jasmine Dancer. Some people were here to gain experience, while others were here to get a ranking. The Dancer family's main goal for this competition was still to gain experience. The main enemy of this competition is the judge. He has to face 800 top-notch spiritualists alone. This is clearly unrealistic, so he will definitely use the strategy of defeating them one by one. There is no benefit in fighting the judge in the early stage. You might even get wiped out, Jasmine Dancer said. Jasmine Dance said, so in the early stages, our choice is to hide and guard against the other participating teams. Then how long do we have to hide? At least for more than 12 hours, Jasmine Dancer said. Jasmine Dance said, we'll see the situation after 12 hours. If the referee continues to fight, he will definitely be exhausted. At that time we'll act. Of course, if the referee's strength is too strong, then we'll continue to hide. The judge was strong. That was for sure. No one doubted the judge's strength. Even the young contestants. No matter how young and arrogant they were, no matter how unruly they were. They also understood that the judge was definitely very strong. However, not everyone thought so. Not everyone was here to participate in the competition. Right now there was a team of 4 sprinting in the snow. These 4 people were wearing the same clothes. They wore pure white masks that only revealed their eyes. They were obviously from the same faction. Suddenly, they stopped in front of a cave. Coincidentally, this cave was the one the Dancer family's team was hiding in. The 5 people in the cave also sensed the uninvited guest outside. The 5 people from the Dancer family came out of the cave. Looking at the 4 people in front of them, the 5 people from the Dancer family didn't relax. 5 against 4, without knowing the opponent's strength, didn't mean they could win. Do you know where they are from? Jasmine Dancer asked in a low voice. Everyone shook their heads. I don't know. Jasmine Dancer looked at the 4 people in front of them. Guys, if you don't hide properly, you will be easily eliminated if you show off like this. Jasmine Dancer's words had a hint of threat. The 4 laughed coldly. We have no ill intentions. We are just here to team up with you. Team up? We have no interest in teaming up with strangers. The 4 people's intentions were unknown. Their identity and strength were unknown. If they teamed up with them rashly, they might be the ones to suffer. Plus, The 4 people in front of them gave them a very bad feeling. I'm afraid that's not up to you. The 4 clenched their fists. Cold energy condensed into blades and swords. Ice type. The members of the dancer family all had serious expressions on their faces. In this environment, it was very disadvantageous to face 4 ice-type spirit controllers. In this world of ice and snow, it was their main battlefield. And because of the extreme cold, their body functions were restricted to different degrees. They wore thick windproof clothes to protect themselves from the cold. This would affect their fighting strength to a certain degree. How do you want to team up? Jasmine Dancer asked tentatively. We will find other people to join us. One of the 4 said. We need to find other people? Jasmine Dancer was a little surprised. As long as we have enough people, we will find the judge. If we kill him, we will advance. Chapter 31:11. I don't want to die, Jasmine Dancer said. She would rather fight with the 4 people in front of her than seek death. As soon as the 4 of them disagreed, the leader of the group immediately attacked. Without any words, Jasmine Dancer immediately felt an extreme chill. Even though he was wearing a thick windbreaker, he was unable to block out the chill. It was as if the blood in her veins was about to freeze. The 5 members of the dancer family were all shocked. What terrifying strength! Just what level were these 4 people at? They couldn't fight back at all. This was too scary. I'll ask you one last time. Work together or die. The 5 of them felt a bone-piercing chill, as well as a killing intent that was even more terrifying than the chill. They were serious. They would really kill the 5 of them. I accept. Let's work together, Jasmine Dancer said helplessly. One of them had attacked, and they couldn't fight back. They couldn't even muster the will to fight back against this kind of dominating power. Too strong. Why would such terrifying beings participate in this competition? This was too unfair. Despair appeared in the 5's eyes. Very good. Wise choice. The 4 were all wearing masks. The 5 members of the dancer family couldn't see their expressions, but they couldn't sense any emotion from their tone. The 5 sighed. Appearances were stronger than people. They had to lower their heads. There were definitely some hotheads in this year's Supernatural World Tournament, but they were definitely a minority. This definitely didn't include the 5 of them. No matter how powerful their families were, there were always people in this world who didn't care about their backgrounds. So they wouldn't use their families' names to be arrogant. What's your plan? Jasmine Dancer asked. I've already told you. Gather enough people and kill the judge. Jasmine Dancer frowned. They'd already said it once before. But back then, Jasmine Dancer and the others had only thought that they wanted to defeat them. But now, they felt that they didn't want to defeat them. They wanted to kill the judge. Just then, the leader tossed over 5 ice masks, 1 for each of them. Put it on. Jasmine Dancer frowned again. She was secretly on guard. Put it on, the leader urged again. His tone was even colder and unquestionable. Jasmine Dancer had no choice but to put on her ice mask. The moment she put on the mask, a terrifying mental attack surged into Jasmine Dancer's mind. At this time, the family heirloom pendant that Jasmine Dancer wore suddenly flashed. Immediately after, Jasmine Dancer broke free from the mental attack. At the same time, the other 4 members of the dancer family were completely controlled. They were just like the other 3. He couldn't feel any emotion from them, as if they were puppets. Jasmine Dancer followed behind him without batting an eyelid. The leader didn't seem to notice that Jasmine Dancer wasn't being controlled. Jasmine Dancer followed them until they found the second group of people. No, it should be the third group. The 3 people who were with that person earlier should be the first batch he found. The second group was led by the House of Dancer. Who are you people? You want to start a war with us? The other party's tone was almost exactly the same as Jasmine Dancer's. The masked man gave the same answer. I'm here to seek cooperation. Cooperate with what? Form a team and kill the referee. You're crazy. The man turned around and wanted to leave. It seemed like there were still rational people. Or rather, most of them were rational. But the masked man attacked again. There were 7 people in total, and they were also controlled instantly. It was still the same move. He'd been controlled in one move against the 5 from the dancer family. But now he was controlled in one move again. This guy was terrifyingly strong, as if they weren't even in the same dimension. Jasmine Dancer's eyes were filled with shock. This masked man was even stronger than before. Even scarier. Jasmine Dancer was shocked. Could it be that the more people he controlled, the stronger he got? What was wrong with this guy? If he continued to control himself, he might really be able to defeat the judge. Soon he found the fourth and fifth groups. It was still the same process of communication, and then they started fighting. Finally, he forced them to wear the ice mask. After putting on the ice mask, his strength became even more terrifying. Jasmine Dancer felt like she was suffocating. By now, he'd controlled 31 people. But he wasn't satisfied. He kept searching for other contestants. It didn't matter if they were alone or in a team. He attacked them indiscriminately, and then forced them to wear the ice mask. Jasmine Dancer felt chills run down her spine. Was this guy going to keep getting stronger? Was there no limit? When the masked man controlled the 50th person, he didn't need to go through the same process anymore. Seeing the person, he raised his hand and waved gently. The person's face was covered by the ice mask. Until the masked man controlled 80 people. Only then did he stop. He started leading the people back. More than 80 people marched towards the center of Island 98 in a majestic manner. Jasmine Dancer had mixed feelings. The masked man might really beat the referee now. No, even the referee couldn't beat the masked man now. But what about them? After he defeated the judge, would they be considered to have advanced to the next round? Or would they be eliminated? Jasmine Dancer was uneasy. They reached the center of the island. Jasmine Dancer saw an Asian man strolling alone in the snow-covered land. Seeing the large group of people coming toward him, the Asian was also confused. You guys, Chen Zhao scratched his head. He'd been on Island 98 for more than an hour. But in that time, he'd only found 4 people. Everyone was hiding from him. At this rate, Chen Zhao wouldn't be able to finish even in a month, let alone tomorrow afternoon. But Chen Zhao didn't expect so many to come at once. Either they all hid or they all came at once. This was the truth. The masked man spoke. You're the referee? Obviously. Is there a problem? Chen Zhao looked at the masked man. He could already tell that the masked man was the leader. His aura was strange and very powerful. He'd even reached the Shangqing realm. No, he was far stronger than normal Shangqing realm people. The masked man's cold voice contained some resentment. Seems like the new referee the Big Six found is only SOSO. So young, the masked man said coldly. If not me, should I have chosen you? Chen Zhao asked unconcerned. It should have been me. I should have been the referee. In the end, a guy like you who came out of nowhere took away the position that should have belonged to me. Chapter 31:12. Jasmine Dancer understood what he meant. So the masked man was a candidate for the judge. No wonder he was so strong. But the Big Six had chosen Chen Zhao, so he held a grudge. But now she was more worried. The masked man was already very strong. Now he controlled more than 80 contestants. His power should also be boosted by the 80 contestants. His power would be unprecedentedly terrifying. Maybe he would be the top person in the world now. At least, before the 80 people were freed. Maybe he would always be the top person. But she didn't dare to expose the fact that she wasn't being controlled. If he won or even killed the judge, she didn't dare to expose it. Would she be controlled by him for the rest of her life? Jasmine Dancer was deep in thought. She looked at Chen Zhao. If she was telling the truth, she could risk informing the judge. Even if the judge couldn't beat the masked man, he would at least be more careful. If the masked man could escape and contact the Big Six or other judges, there was still a chance to turn the tables. However, even if it was a flip, it was still a technical job. How could she make the masked man unable to do anything to her because of that? She had to find a safe chance first. When the masked man and the judge started fighting, by then, he wouldn't have time to care about her. Jasmine Dancer had already made her decision, but she realized that the judge didn't care about the masked man's arrival. This made her heart sink. This wasn't a good sign. If the judge could make the masked man pay attention, at least he wouldn't lose so badly. Or lose so quickly. Chen Zhao glanced at the masked man casually. So you're just a loser. The masked man was furious. Before this, he'd always been cold and emotionless. But because of Chen Zhao's words, he was infuriated. Who do you think you are? The masked man roared furiously. You're just my substitute. I'll prove that you're not even a substitute. In an instant, a terrifying aura erupted from the masked man's body. At the same time, the surrounding snow turned into a blizzard. The masked man's power activated the power of the world. I want you dead. You pathetic substitute. Dozens of huge icicles formed above the masked man's head. Jasmine's face paled. What a terrifying power. However, Chen Zhao still looked at the masked man casually. Now I understand why you didn't get selected. You're really weak. Continue to be stubborn. Soon, you won't be able to smile anymore. The masked man put his palms together, and all the ice pillars gathered into one. At the same time, it turned into a huge ice giant. An ice giant that was several hundred meters tall. Jasmine Dancer's expression changed again. Was this the masked man's true strength? Was there really someone in this world who could contend against such a mighty force? Chen Zhao's attitude was still nonchalant. The ice giant swung its fist at Chen Zhao. Bang! In an instant the earth shook and the mountains shook. The heavens fell and the earth cracked. A huge crater appeared on the ground. Jasmine Dancer's expression turned extremely ugly. Her plan was ruined before it even got started. There was nothing in the pit. It seemed that the referee had been reduced to ashes by this punch. Haha! The masked man laughed wildly. Did you see that? Did you see that? This is my true strength. Those blind bastards should understand now. Actually, he'd been at the bottom of the Shangqing realm before. But it was different now. To him, this match had given him a unique advantage. With every person he controlled, his strength would increase. When he controlled more than 80 people, his strength increased by more than 10 times. He couldn't find so many top spiritualists to control other places. Moreover, if he attacked so many spiritualists in other places, he'd be attacked by the entire spiritual world. But it was different here. This was a place where people fought each other. So what if people found out later? Anyway, these people were already under his control. He was strong enough. So strong that he didn't fear anyone. I'll let the Big Six know that not choosing me was the stupidest choice they've ever made in their lives, the masked man said proudly. The masked man said proudly, since you didn't choose me, then this competition is over. Jasmine Dancer felt even more despair. Her plan had failed before it even got started. What would she do in the future? Even her family couldn't find someone who could fight against this terrifying guy, right? Just then, a voice suddenly sounded. So weak, so weak. No wonder the Big Six gave up on you. Jasmine Dancer looked in the direction of the voice in shock. The masked man was also shocked. He saw Chen Zhao floating in the air, completely unharmed. You want to beat me with this? Did you eat something wrong? Did you mess up your brain? I see. Strengthening type, speed type? The masked man understood very quickly. It was because Chen Zhao was too fast. That was why he'd luckily dodged the ice giant's attack. But I'm your nemesis. The masked man sneered at Chen Zhao. Frost field. Instantly, the wind became even colder, and the temperature dropped. Chen Zhao realized that he seemed to be affected too. His movements became very slow. He could only move at the speed of a normal person. This frost field wasn't the domain of Shangqing realm. Instead, it was a large-scale spell. The masked man's face lit up with pride. How about now? It's really powerful, but I only need 1 minute. When I get used to the temperature, it'll be your time of death, Chen Zhao said disapprovingly. The cold air was rapidly sucking away his body's warmth. However, Chen Zhao was also covering his entire body with fire. As long as he covered his body with the cold air, the masked man's move would be useless. 1 minute. You don't have 1 minute. The ice giant formed again in the snowstorm. It swung its huge fist at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao's speed was restricted. He couldn't dodge this earth-shattering punch at all. Boom! Chen Zhao was smashed into the ice wall. The ice wall shattered, but the ice giant followed with another punch. Boom, boom! The mountain behind the ice wall collapsed too. Jasmine Dancer's heart sank to the bottom. She saw that Chen Zhao could only passively take the hits. However, he wasn't smashed into pieces by the ice giant's punches. This also showed how powerful he was. At least she couldn't do it herself. She couldn't even take one punch. But if he continued to passively take the hits, his defeat was only a matter of time. No, he'd already lost long ago. The only surprise now was when he'd die. Chapter 31:13. He kept smashing it for 2 minutes. The ice giant was huge, but its movements weren't slow at all. It could probably throw a dozen punches in a second. The surrounding ground had long been destroyed beyond recognition by it. To the others, Chen Zhao should have been smashed to death long ago. But even though Chen Zhao was sent flying everywhere, he was still perfectly fine. Suddenly the ice giant's fist paused. Chen Zhao stood up and stopped the ice giant's fist with one hand. You really disappoint me. You can't even break my defense in a minute. You really disappoint me. You haven't even broken my defense in a minute. And what kind of defense is he using? Chen Zhao hadn't died even after a minute. After smashing him for a minute, he still wasn't dead. No one had ever been able to break his frost realm. No one had ever been able to break his frost realm. How could he move? Give me. Before the masked man could finish. Suddenly, he saw Chen Zhao raise a hand toward the sky. The next moment, the sky suddenly turned deep red. Jasmine Dancer's pupils constricted. She stared at the sky in disbelief. The dark clouds and snow were torn apart by a huge palm. It was a huge flaming palm. It was so huge that it made people's scalps go numb. The entire sky was covered by the flaming palm. At the same time, all the contestants on Island 98 stared at the flaming palm dumbfounded. It was too big. It was really too big. The flaming palm seemed like it was going to engulf Island 98. The flaming palm only stretched out a finger. It pressed toward the ground. Nothing was left of the ice giant. A huge crater hundreds of meters in diameter was left in the ground. The masked man was also dumbfounded. He was completely dumbfounded. Who am I? Where am I? What am I doing here? Do you still think I'm the losing judge? The masked man couldn't speak for a long time. He hesitated for a long time. Finally he forced out, I admit defeat. Okay. The masked man's head suddenly exploded. His body fell to the ground without a sound. All the contestants who had been controlled woke up from this truth. The masks on their faces also fell apart. Where is this? What happened to me? Why am I here? Where's the masked man? Everywhere was filled with deep thoughts and questions about life. Chen Zhao looked at the contestants. Suddenly, his gaze landed on Jasmine Dancer. You passed the first round. You and you. Chen Zhao picked 8 people in a row. Jasmine Dancer sucked in a breath of cold air. The other 7 who were named felt the same way. Does he know he's not being controlled? The 8 people who had been called looked at each other. They thought that they had disguised themselves well. Even the masked man did not notice their disguise. But Chen Zhao had discovered it. At this moment, they felt that the referee in front of them was terrifying. No wonder he could be the referee and not the masked man. At this moment they understood. They had thought that the masked man was already powerful enough. But now they understood that strength was only relative. Why? Why did they pass the first round? And who are you? The 8 people who had passed the first round all blushed with shame. They looked at Yan Ming, who was rather unconvinced, with some sympathy. Mississippi. Just then, the other sober members of the Dancer family found Jasmine Dancer. Miss, who is that man? He's the referee. Referee? He doesn't look very strong. Jasmine Dancer felt like her scalp was going to explode. You guys were muddle-headed just now, because you don't know the situation. Anyway, those who knew the situation wouldn't say that. He's very strong, unbelievably strong, Jasmine Dancer said. Anyway, no matter if it's this round or in the future, as long as he's the referee, don't do anything against the rules. No one had expected that the usually unruly eldest miss would actually say such a thing. Jasmine Dancer looked at the expressions of her family and clansmen, and immediately smiled bitterly. If possible, she wanted to continue being unruly, but people would grow up. Her family had arranged for her to come here. Actually, it was to broaden her horizons. However, her family did not expect Jasmine to broaden her horizons in the first round. He had also completely put down his high and mighty attitude in the past. She felt that she had no right to be unruly. I don't care if you're the referee or not. You let them pass but not me. I'm not happy. I'm not happy. One of the contestants shouted. Am I right? Bang. Before the person could get a response from the others, Chen Zhao already responded. Chen Zhao didn't seem to do anything, but the person was sent flying. Sorry, this is my territory. I decide all the rules, Chen Zhao said with a smile. Also, you're eliminated. I think you fainted. Someone tell him for me. Chen Zhao's gaze landed on the remaining people. They were not as impulsive, but they were still wary of Chen Zhao. The 8 I called, come behind me. If you stay where you are, I'll take it that you've given up the chance to pass. Looks like you're ready. Let's begin. Instantly the wind howled. A huge icicle appeared above Chen Zhao's head. The pupils of the 8, who'd passed the first round, contracted. The masked man had used the same move before. But the masked man's dozens of icicles combined weren't even as big as Chen Zhao's. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. The icicle was probably hundreds of meters long. If it hit them, they'd probably all kneel. It's too big, Chen Zhao muttered to himself. Never mind, I'll use another move. The 8 people behind Chen Zhao were all speechless. You know it's too big? Chen Zhao clenched his fist, and the icicle shattered. Countless ice shards rained down on the 70 to 80 contestants. Some hid, and some defended. But some fell too. Not many people had fallen, only a dozen or so. Chen Zhao shook his head. It didn't matter why they fell. Chen Zhao had been defeated in the first round of attacks. Clearly, this was a huge blow to his heart. The arrow-like ice shards lasted for less than a minute. Okay, those who fell were eliminated. Those who didn't advance either. Why? We withstood your attack. Someone cried out in dissatisfaction. But as soon as the person spoke, Chen Zhao told him to lie down. Didn't I just say that I have the final say in my territory? Fine, I'll repeat it again. I hope there won't be a next time. Everyone was speechless. Clearly, Chen Zhao wasn't someone who listened so easily. But I'm a fair person. You accepted my test, so the others must accept it too. Chapter 31:14. Everyone had a bad feeling about this. The judge before them wasn't just powerful. He also didn't listen to anyone. Everyone had to accept his rules. As for the others, he wouldn't accept them at all. In any case, this guy was an unreasonable person. Chen Zhao lifted his arm, and another ice pillar appeared in the sky. However, this ice pillar stretched across the sky. Its length was immeasurable. Blood drained from the faces of everyone present. Was their judge a monster? How could they pass before such a monster? That's simply impossible, okay? Everyone couldn't help but look at the 8 people behind Chen Zhao. How did they pass? They didn't have any hope anymore. They definitely couldn't beat them. There had to be other ways to advance. The next moment, the ice pillar shattered and fell apart. Countless ice shards flew like arrows. To the surprise of the contestants, the shards didn't land on the ground. This seemed to be the only safe place on Island 98. Everyone finally understood what Chen Zhao meant. Everyone had to accept the same test. The ice shards were shockingly powerful. No one could dodge them. When they hit something, it would explode a second time, whether it was a person or something else. It was even more dangerous to hide under cover. If there was a sudden explosion outside, the cover might collapse. Therefore, the contestants who were hiding in the ice caves all escaped from the caves. Instantly, many contestants were injured or dead. Of course, it was true that there were no fatalities. But injuries were unavoidable. Just then, a voice rang through the entire island. Come to the center of the island immediately. Otherwise, the attack will continue. People rushed to the center of the island one after another. Many of them were injured. Some had already lost consciousness. Luckily, their companions carried them to the center of the island. Those who have lost consciousness will be eliminated. Who do you think you are? As soon as he said that, everyone looked at the warrior with admiration and sympathy. The warrior who had spoken without thinking was immediately eliminated with his companions. Everyone was in despair. It seemed like no one could challenge Chen Zhao's authority. Chen Zhao's strength made them feel despair. They had no chance of winning at all. Without exception, all those who raised doubts were instantly eliminated. After an hour, more and more people gathered at the center of the island. In addition to the more than 80 people who were originally here, there were more than 700 people gathered here. Alright, participants who haven't reached the center of the island and haven't lost consciousness have passed the first round. What? Bastard, he actually tricked us to the center of the island. Why? Why is this happening? Most of them were complaining, but more people knew how to remain silent. They knew very well that complaining would not solve anything. Their complaints will get them nowhere. Bang, bang, bang. The dozen or so people who complained the loudest were instantly eliminated. Those who had already been taught a lesson wore an expression, as if they had already guessed this outcome. I repeat, please do not express any objections to me. I do not need any suggestions or opinions. My rules will not change because of you. Chen Zhao placed his finger on his forehead, and his perception magic spread out. In an instant, perception magic covered the entire island. Although this kind of perception was not as clear as the small world, its range was dozens of times larger than the small world. Currently, a total of 38 people have passed the first round of the competition. In other words, there are 162 places left. Chen Zhao looked at the crowd. You can attack me now. I will try to control my strength. Also, I will use clones. The battle will continue until there are 162 people. Also, if any of you can destroy my clones, you can also pass the first round. Let's begin. Many people couldn't help but attack Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao only maintained the lowest level of cultivation and attack power, half a step into the Shangqing state. This couldn't be helped, because many people had already reached the critical point. They were only one step away from the Shangqing state. However, it wasn't that easy to take the last step to another country. With so many people here, there might not be a true Shangqing state cultivator. But since they had reached this level, they had the right to advance. Chen Zhao didn't plan on making things difficult for them. These were participants half a step into the Shangqing state, or those who had reached the critical point. If there were no accidents, Chen Zhao would let them pass. There were also the disciples and grand disciples of the old monsters. They were also predetermined, but Chen Zhao had only found 2 so far. As for the others, there might be the disciples and grand disciples of the old monsters, who hadn't revealed their identities. But since they didn't reveal their identities, Chen Zhao couldn't be blamed if they were eliminated. Chen Zhao directly used his avatars. He could now use 108 avatars. Every one of them was half a step into the Shangqing state. Anyway, it was so that the participants couldn't stop. Until there were 162 people left, they would continue to fight. The battle was intense from the beginning, especially after Chen Zhao's 100 clones appeared. Many people impulsively wanted to kill one of Chen Zhao's clones. They felt that since Chen Zhao used cloning spells, the clones would definitely be weaker than the main body. Moreover, there were over 100 clones. One could imagine how weak they were. Of course, there were some cloning spells in the world that could be as strong as the main body. But these spells always had some flaws. For example, they consumed too much energy and had a time limit. They even consumed life force. In short, they couldn't last long. So they felt that killing one of Chen Zhao's clones was a piece of cake. They all prided themselves as geniuses or top cultivators. It was fine if they couldn't beat Chen Zhao's main body. After all, Chen Zhao was the judge, someone chosen by the Big Six. It was understandable that he was strong, but it was impossible that he couldn't beat a clone. At the beginning, they thought that the first round was really easy. Then they quickly realized the reality. Actually, it wasn't just Chen Zhao's main body that was suppressed. Chen Zhao's clones also suppressed their strength. After all, clones could have the same cultivation and strength as the main body. They just didn't have the amplification. In other words, even if it was just a doppelganger, it could instantly kill hundreds of contestants. Chapter 31:15. Soon they realized something in despair. He couldn't even beat a doppelganger. And this was a clone that had more than 100 clones. How strong was the real body? There was no need for a second guess. They didn't think they could beat the real body. 7 or 8 of them ganged up on a clone, but they were pressed to the ground and beaten. More importantly, They could clearly feel that the clone was also suppressing his own power. What often happened was that after the clone made a move, it would slap its own head and block its own attack. The entire process was as smooth as flowing water, and it was done in one go. Of course, there were strong people too. There were one or two who could fight the clone alone. But those were the clones after being suppressed. The few strong people who could fight the clone were also struggling. Chen Zhao's clone slapped the contestant away with one hand. The contestant retreated more than 10 steps, but he still glared at the clone aggressively. I already said you passed. If you don't stop, I won't go easy on you. Chen Zhao could tell that the contestant was using his clone as a whetstone. I can't even beat a clone. What right do I have to take revenge? The contestant was still determined. You're already very strong, unless your enemies are those top few. Below them, you're pretty much invincible. Chen Zhao's clone didn't want to waste time with him. That person isn't famous, but he's also one of the top. The contestant's expression was dark. His every move was filled with explosive power. How about you ask me to take revenge for you? You. How much money can you give me? I don't have money. Why are you talking if you don't have money? The contestant was depressed. If you didn't bring up this topic first, he wouldn't retort. He couldn't afford to offend Chen Zhao. If you don't stop, I'll break your arms and legs. By then, you won't even be able to survive, let alone take revenge. The contestant hurriedly retreated, his expression uncertain. Can you take me as your disciple? No. Scram. If it was a girl, he might consider it. But how could a burly man older than him have the face to learn from him? Looking at her bitter and hateful face, Chen Zhao lost interest. As for his background, Chen Zhao was even less interested. Finally, the battle that lasted for 6 hours was finally over. 200 people stood neatly before Chen Zhao. Everyone else was lying on the ground. The remaining 200 people were also covered with cuts and bruises. Almost no one was unscathed, so it was fine to remove almost. Okay, now you have passed the first round of the test. Chen Zhao paused and looked at the 200 expressionless contestants. Do you know how to clap? If you don't, I'll break your hands right now. Pa pa pa. Didn't you have lunch? Crash. The 200 contestants knew Chen Zhao's personality very well. He really dared to break the hands of 200 contestants. You really need a beating, Chen Zhao spat. Many people were filled with righteous indignation, but no one dared to confront Chen Zhao head-on anymore. They had already seen how unreasonable Chen Zhao could be. Chen Zhao had just announced that they had passed the first round, but Chen Zhao could still take away their chance to advance on the spot. Some of you will definitely meet me in the later rounds, so I hope that as long as I'm the judge, you can all follow the rules. You know that I'm not very reasonable. Everyone was speechless. Chen Zhao was the first person to speak so boldly and unreasonably, and he had said it in front of 200 people. Someone else would have been beaten to death in minutes. Soon, the people responsible for receiving the contestants arrived. But they were not here to receive those who had passed the first round. Instead, they were here to receive those who had failed. There was a professional medical team among them. They specialized in treating and saving those who were seriously injured. Of course, Chen Zhao knew when to stop, because he was a doctor himself. So almost no one was seriously injured. Even if there was, Chen Zhao healed them on the spot. No one will come to pick you up tonight. The earliest will be tomorrow morning, so you can rest here. By the way, who can get me something to eat? If I meet you when I'm enforcing the law, I'll go easy on you. Everyone was speechless again. But while they were speechless, they didn't see any of them being unyielding. Every one of them was extremely diligent, even if they were covered in cuts and bruises, even if they were exhausted. But they still diligently prepared food and drinks for Chen Zhao. Island 98 was covered in ice and snow, but there were still living creatures. Back then, it wasn't just the environment and climate that had been affected by the spiritual energy. Even the living creatures here were affected. There were powerful and dangerous magical beasts here. But they had hunted quite a lot of beasts. After more than an hour, the corpses of various magical beasts had piled up like a mountain. In the end, everyone started a party on the spot. In the party, an Asian youth walked up to Chen Zhao. Sir, please fight seriously with me. Do you want me to kill you? Fight seriously? You think you're worthy? It wasn't that Chen Zhao looked down on the youth. Fine. Chen Zhao did look down on him. The youth bowed at Chen Zhao. Sir, I want to know what I'm capable of. He seemed to be from Japan. Youth, if I fight seriously, I'll really kill you. My soul is stored in the soul lamp, and my body is also in my family, so I can't die. This body was created with my essence blood. Chen Zhao rolled his eyes. Do you believe that at least 100 of the 200 participants here know how to kill you? Isn't that? Kid, have you heard of soul explosion? At this time, a woman interrupted. Destroy your body and make a bomb out of your soul fragment. After your soul fragment loses its body, it will return to its main body, and then it will explode with a boom. I have something called the spirit bird. It can track souls. It's too easy to kill you. In order to show off in front of Chen Zhao, the contestants all used their trump cards. The Japanese youth's face flushed. My full power attack will transfer the excess power to your soul, Chen Zhao said. So you'll really die. Chen Zhao really didn't lie to him. This was a move that he'd developed after meeting the skinny old man last time. But it wasn't all the power. According to distance, the power would gradually weaken. But as long as they were on Earth, Chen Zhao was confident that he could kill most people with this method. Chapter 31:16. No one slept for the entire night. All of them wanted to fight with Chen Zhao. Simply put, they were asking for a beating. But they didn't dare to be as arrogant as the Japanese youth and say that they would only be satisfied if they beat him up with all their strength. These people who had just passed the first round were all arrogant and friendless. But after being beaten up by Chen Zhao, they more or less knew that they couldn't afford to offend Chen Zhao. He was completely different from the people who had gone against them in the past. The people in the past were all people they could beat and could afford to offend. But Chen Zhao was the kind of person who would let you die at the slightest disagreement. He definitely wouldn't waste time talking to you. In the early morning of the next day, a large ship picked up all 200 people and left. Chen Zhao was the fastest. Apart from the contestants that Zhang Tianyi was in charge of, the other judges also finished before noon. The contestants that the other judges were in charge of didn't finish until noon. As for the contestants who persevered, they naturally advanced to the next round. This couldn't be helped. After all, the judges were strong. But not everyone could fight hundreds of people like Chen Zhao. Furthermore, Zhang Tianyi wanted them to suppress their own strength. Even Bifla had a headache over this. It was easy for him to take away the contestants he was in charge of in one wave. But he couldn't possibly suppress his abilities. He couldn't use AoE attacks or large-scale lethal spells. Chen Zhao was the only one who didn't care about anything. He'd long thrown all the rules to the back of his mind. It was precisely because Chen Zhao was so unrestrained that he ended up with the best results. There were more or less a lot of other contestants left. The original number of contestants to pass the first round was 800, but now there were only 1,200 people left. Based on this number, they definitely couldn't go through the elimination rounds. If they went through the elimination rounds now, there would be more than 600 rounds. There were 8 judges, and each judge had to be in charge of more than 80 rounds. The judges would probably die before the contestants. The 8 judges gathered together again. Chen Zhao, if I knew this would happen, I would have done the same thing and used AoE attacks on the contestants. Bifla sighed. The first match was too strenuous. Not only was it strenuous, the result wasn't satisfactory. Zhang Tianyi glanced at Bifura. Chen Zhao has medical skills and precise control over his strength. His sensory range can cover the entire island. None of the hundreds of people were seriously injured. Can you do what he did? Bifla shook his head. There was nothing he could do about it. His perception could also extend to such a large range. Speaking of perception, Chen Zhao had learned it secretly from him. However, when it came to precise strikes, he couldn't do it. For one thing, his control over his power was not that precise, especially when there were so many of them. Moreover, he had no idea what degree of serious injury and what degree of death would occur. Chen Zhao crossed his legs on the table and leaned back in his chair, snoring softly. Zhang Tianyi knocked on the table. Okay, Chen Zhao, wake up. Let's talk business. Without opening his eyes, Chen Zhao murmured, "Go ahead. I'm listening." Everyone knows the situation now, right? What's there to know? It's always like this. The first round starts with a big wave. But in the end, there are still many contestants. 23rd Blood, Mary said nonchalantly. It seemed like this was the norm. Chen Zhao closed his eyes to sleep, but he was just pretending to doze off. Simply put, his body was sleeping, but his soul was awake. Then according to the rules, how do we deal with the people who advanced outside of the plan? Add an extra trial, of course, Zhang Tianyi said. What's the rule? Let's use the points competition for the second round, Zhang Tianyi said. What kind of points competition? There are many caves on Island 67. They all lead to one place, the Ether World. Small world? Chen Zhao was shocked. Zhang Tianyi shook his head. Not a small world. It's a huge space underground. Because it's huge, it's tens of thousands of square kilometers. When it was first discovered, the explorers thought that they saw an underground world, so they called it the Ether World. Tens of thousands of square kilometers was indeed boundless. What does Ether World mean? Ether World is a magical material. Large amounts of Ether World were found in that underground world. That's how the Ether World got its name. Chen Zhao shrugged. He'd never heard of Ether World. Ether World is the main material for mana growth potions, Bifla said. Bifla said, however, the mana growth potion made from Ether Polaris has a certain toxicity. If taken too much, there will be side effects of distortion and distortion. In the Ether Polaris world, many creatures are affected by Ether Polaris. There are also many god-level magical beasts in the Ether Polaris world. Zhang Tianyi waved his hand. Since the second round is in the Ether world, we need to be wary of those magical beasts. After all, they're very dangerous to most contestants. Can we kill them? Chen Zhao asked. If it's necessary, yes, Zhang Tianyi said. But only if we don't attack them first. Why not? Didn't you say that they're dangerous? Their existence is necessary, Bifla said. Bifla said, they exist in the cosmic world and represent a link in the biological chain of the cosmic world. Losing one or two is not a problem, but if a large number of them die, it will have a serious impact. The ecology of the cosmic world may lose balance. If it's so troublesome, why did you choose the Ether World? Isn't it better to change places? Or is there no other place to choose? There is, but it'll be more troublesome. Are you sure you want to change places? Then never mind. Then it's settled. We'll use the Ether World as the venue for the second round. The time limit is 7 days. The top 256 will advance. The rest will all be eliminated, Zhang Tianyi said. Then let's decide on the magical beast strength and points. God-level magical beast. If they can really kill one, then they'll get 99 points. Disaster level will get 49. Disaster level will get 19. Disaster level will get 9. And disaster level will get 1. A god-level magical beast can allow 5 people to share the spoils and points. 2 people can share the spoils and points for disaster-level magical beasts. Only 1 person can get points for those below disaster level. Soon, everyone came up with the specific rules of the competition. Chen Zhao didn't say anything. He was just a tool anyway. He was only in charge of doing things, not giving opinions. Chapter 31:17. Sir. This way, this way. Chen Zhao was sitting in the open, enjoying the sea breeze. Not far away, a few sneaky figures waved at Chen Zhao. Looking at them, Chen Zhao couldn't help but frown. Weren't they the contestants he'd been responsible for? Chen Zhao crooked his finger. Come and sit. They looked around and sat down in front of Chen Zhao like thieves. What are you doing? You're acting like thieves. Sir, don't you know that contestants will be punished for touching the judges? How come I don't know? Because we're the ones being punished. Of course, the judges wouldn't be punished. Chen Zhao had always been a volunteer. No matter what, Zhang Tianyi wouldn't cause trouble for Chen Zhao. If you know you'll be punished, why did you come to me? Everyone looked at each other. One of the women chuckled awkwardly. Sir, I cast an anti-surveillance spell. As long as we're not being watched directly by people of your level, normal spiritualists won't be able to sense us approaching you. Are you sure I won't report you? Will you? Being lazy won't do you any good. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief. Sir, this is a gift we pooled together. The woman pushed a gift box to Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao opened it. It was a branded watch worth more than $300,000. Coincidentally, Chen Zhao had the same watch. However, Chen Zhao found it funny. Even he would be bribed one day. It felt weird. I don't need the gift. Tell me, why did you come to me? Everyone stopped talking again. Clearly, Chen Zhao's refusal to accept the gift made them nervous. Tell me, if I want to mess with you, it doesn't matter if you give me a gift or not. If you want to get something from me, it won't just be a branded watch. Everyone was helpless. Chen Zhao's words had clearly struck their fear. Actually, we just want to know what the next match will be. Points, Chen Zhao said without hesitation. Which island will it be held on? It seemed that some of them were experienced. It wasn't their first time participating. Island 67. Taiji World. Everyone's expression changed. Looks like I don't need to say more. You guys know him better than I do. Everyone had a bitter look on their faces. Why? Is that eunuch world very dangerous? There are huge casualties every time. One of them said, I participated in one session 12 years ago. It was also the tying world. Because of an accident, more than 100 participants and a judge died. I was also seriously injured in that session and had to recuperate for nearly 10 years. I didn't come back until the year before last. Because of the 10 years of recuperation, I missed 2 sessions. Did we encounter a deity-level magical beast? Yes and no. The man did not beat around the bush and continued. The main cause of the casualties is the demonic beasts. Under normal circumstances, it is unlikely that the demonic beasts will go on a rampage. However, in the competition 12 years ago, almost all the demonic beasts in the Tai-Yin world went crazy and attacked the contestants. After the investigation, it was found that the demonic beasts seemed to have been deliberately disturbed, which was why they went on a rampage. Do you know who they are? I don't know. The organizers haven't been able to find the instigator of that incident. If that's the case, why is it open again this time? I think the Egler family in the Baiku Islands can't sit still anymore. Oh, why is that? However, the strength of the family is now extremely weak. Originally, the Taiyemo world was the source of income for the Egel family, but since the incident 12 years ago, the Taiyemo world has been closed. Relying on the Taiyemo world produced by the Taiyemo world, the Egel family was able to maintain its reputation as a first-class family. However, the Taiyemo world has been closed for 12 years. If it continues to be closed, the Egel family is afraid that the Egel family won't be able to hold on any longer. In addition, according to the annual investigations of the Big Six in the Taiyemo world, the number of magical beasts in the Taiyemo world has increased beyond the normal level. At that time, the magical beasts in the Taiyemo world will swarm out, causing a great impact on Island 67 and the surrounding islands. At that time, not to mention the interests of the Taiyemo world, even the Baiku Islands may lose the favor of the Big Six and change to another place to hold the World Supernatural Competition. You should know that many places hope that the World Supernatural Competition can be held in another place. Hearing this, Zhou Wen's expression became solemn as he spoke. Almost every year, there are rumors that the venue of the World Supernatural Tournament will be changed. Could it be the doing of those people from the venue? That's a possibility, but there's no evidence, and there are many places competing for the hosting rights, so it's almost impossible to find the instigator of that incident just by guessing. Sir, if there's any danger, please help us. Do you think the second round will be dangerous? Chen Zhao was surprised. We don't know either, but Taiyuan world is too dangerous. Even if there are no accidents, the magical beasts there are still extremely dangerous. Furthermore, no one knows if the same thing will happen again. After all, the culprit has not been found yet. Even if something really happens, I won't necessarily help you. If something happens, I'll help you out in passing. But if you think that you'll be the first to look for you after something happens, then you're thinking too much. I also have subordinates participating in the competition. If something really happens, I'll protect them first, not you. This answer was within their expectations. After all, Chen Zhao was among the top. There was no way he would be bought over so easily. Plus, there's no sign of it yet. We don't even know if something will happen, so you don't have to worry too much, Chen Zhao said calmly. Also, even if something happens, all you have to do is run. Unless you encounter a god-level magical beast, it shouldn't be a problem for you to escape from the ether world. I'm just afraid of accidents. What accidents? That's just your guesses. Or do you have actual information? We don't have any information, but we can still use simple prophecy spells. Oh, prophecy spells? What did you predict? Chaos. No, not accidents. We didn't predict anything. Are you kidding me? You didn't predict anything, and you said that something will happen? Aren't you being too careless? Chapter 31:18. Sir, not being able to predict anything is the scariest prediction, one of them said with a bitter smile. Another person added, Sir, I'm the one who made the prophecy. The prophecy magic didn't predict what would happen at a certain point in time. Maybe someone interfered with it, or maybe some powerful being blocked it. But the most likely thing is that the prophet died. Chen Zhao frowned. Even if you die, it doesn't mean something will happen in the second round. After all, the competition itself is very risky. I also prophesied them, but there was no result. Only he. That person pointed to another person and said, I saw the scene of him being heavily injured and dying. If one or two people had an accident, I could accept it. But if all of us had an accident, then we feel that there will definitely be problems in the second round. I can't do anything about this. I will report it to the other referees. As for what they decide, it's not for me to decide. Chen Zhao glanced at everyone. As for you guys, I don't have any better advice apart from telling you to run if something happens. The arena for the second match was too big. Even if Chen Zhao spread out his senses, he couldn't cover the entire ethereal world. That was an area of tens of thousands of square kilometers, which was about the size of 60 Los Angeles. Even the combined senses of the other 7 judges wouldn't be able to cover the entire area, let alone Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao would definitely be in charge of a very large area. By then, Chen Zhao wouldn't be able to stare at them, so Chen Zhao could only pray that they were on their own. However, Chen Zhao realized that he had underestimated the intelligence of the other judges. Since Chen Zhao could get the information, there was no reason why the others couldn't get the information. That afternoon, Zhang Tianyi called for another referee meeting. The situation seems to be a bit complicated this time. I've received some bad news. There might be problems in the second match, Zhang Tianyi said with a serious expression. In fact, it was not his decision to choose Taiying World as the venue for the second round. Instead, it was a request from the Agel family. They were the representatives of the 6 great supernatural organizations. Zhang Tianyi was against it at first, but he couldn't stop the Egler family from crying out of poverty. Moreover, he was willing to give up a portion of the profits. He wasn't the only one who had the final say in the Great 6. In the end, he could only compromise and agree to reopen the Taigui world. However, he was worried that something would happen again. The instigator of the previous incident had never been found. He didn't even know what the other party's goal was. In the end, they could only come to one conclusion, and that was that they had a personal grudge against the Egler family. It was purely to disgust and deal a blow to the Agoli family. Now that he had opened the Taigui world again, Zhang Tianyi could not guarantee that the tragedy from 12 years ago would not happen again. One of my disciples divined the fortune of a participant he was familiar with. In the end, he didn't get any results. Instead, he spat out a mouthful of blood and shouted, 1,000 demons have appeared. Everyone furrowed their brows, but they did not panic too much. The prophecy of the emergence of 1,000 demons sounded quite scary. However, no one on the scene had prevented a few catastrophic events. Even if it was a major incident, he had experienced it once or twice. Therefore, he didn't have much of a reaction. Instead, he was thinking about whether there were any devils that had been sealed, and whether they could be related to the name 1,000 Devils. However, after thinking for a long time, He could not think of 1,000 demons. Of course, it didn't mean that they didn't take it seriously. In fact, if they could think of it, it would actually be easier. After all, whether it was an ancient devil or not, they could at least find a few words in some ancient records. However, there were no relevant records at all. This was very troublesome. Without any information to use, they could not find the other party's weakness in advance. In this situation, they could only rely on absolute combat power to keep the other party in check. After thinking for a long time, they still could not think of a better way. Chen Zhao was naturally a necessary combat power. At the moment, they could not confirm the impact of the incident. However, with Chen Zhao as a guarantee, at least everyone was more confident. Nevertheless, without knowing the specifics, no one felt that it would be fine. Chen Zhao kept silent. He really did not have much confidence in the information he had obtained so far. The other party could commit such a huge crime 12 years ago and escape unscathed. Today, 12 years later, the incident still hadn't happened. How could the other party let you find any clues? Who could guarantee that the information they had now wasn't deliberately leaked by the other party? Most of the current information was obtained through prophecy or divination, but for some powerful people, it was still possible to change the outcome of a prophecy. For example, creating some illusions, or even some mental interference on the prophet, was extremely easy for them. Actually, everyone understood the logic, but they were more willing to follow the information. After all, the information on the surface would at least give them something to investigate. But if the information couldn't be used, then everyone would be at a loss. Zhang Tianyi, Baifla, and 23rd Blood Mary were all 100 times more cunning than Chen Zhao. If Chen Zhao could think of a problem, how could they not think of it? To them, they were either not in power and didn't care about politics like Chen Zhao, or they were people with other plans like Zhang Tianyi. The 8 of them briefly explained the situation in the meeting. They did not have a clear plan on how to act at the moment. After the meeting, Zhang Tianyi pulled Chen Zhao to the side. Chen Zhao really did not want to interact with Zhang Tianyi in private. He might be tricked into doing manual labor again. Chen Zhao, if something really happens to the Taiyan world, how about you be the main force? I'm a member of the judges. Of course I'll contribute. Chen Zhao's meaning was simple. He would do as much as he needed to. He would do as much as the others did. Not one bit more. Not one bit less. As for the main force, he would not take it. You should think about the big picture. I have everything, but I lack the big picture. Zhang Tianyi smiled bitterly. Chen Zhao was indeed easy to fool. But the key was that after being fooled a few times, Chen Zhao had learned his lesson. The way Chen Zhao learned his lesson wasn't to see the big picture. Instead, no matter what, he would first refuse. This was more troublesome than dealing with smart people, because they would not be able to continue their conversation. If it was someone else, Zhang Tianyi would first convince them with virtue. But he could not use this on Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao was also good at convincing people with virtue. Tell me, what do you want? Chapter 31:19. Chen Zhao shook his head. I always hoped that someone tall would hold the sky if it collapsed. But one day, I suddenly realized that I've become that tall person. So, I hope that even if I'm tall, I'll be the most inconspicuous one. Those who stand out all die miserably. You're thinking too much. Unless I hit you with a nuclear bomb, I don't think anyone can kill you. Also, I don't think even a small nuclear bomb can kill you. Have you studied how to deal with me? Ha. This is normal research. It's not targeted at anyone. I don't believe you. Chen Zhao chuckled. Chen Zhao turned and left. However, he was confused by the current situation. From start to finish, Chen Zhao wasn't someone who could analyze the situation. The more he analyzed, the more confused he became. But he remembered that he didn't have to analyze alone. Chen Zhao took out his phone and called West. West, I need you to analyze something for me. President, go ahead. Chen Zhao told him the current situation. West, help me analyze the current situation. What does Celestial Master Zhang mean? West was also confused. After thinking for a while, he said, President, why don't we find a professional to analyze it? Professional? Who? Did you forget about the people who joined us a while ago? Aluntarai Manit. They all used their own intellect to win our favor. Them? Then let's find them and see if they can come to a different conclusion. A while later, Aluntarai and Manette arrived. Right now, they were doing very well in their respective teams. They'd also gained a foothold in their teams. At the same time, they also learned about the supernatural organization's background. In the video call, the two were still rather reserved when they talked to Chen Zhao. President. Yes, I need your help to analyze something. Chen Zhao simply explained the current situation. President, if it's convenient, please explain in detail, Aluntarai said. The more detailed, the better. That way we won't make a wrong judgment. Chen Zhao could only repeat it again. This time, he told them all the details he remembered. That's the situation. Aluntarai and Manette both fell into deep thought. Chen Zhao didn't rush them. He waited patiently for them to continue. After a few minutes, Alantir said, President, you have two questions at the moment. Whether the prophecy is accurate or not, and Master Celestial Master Zhang's attitude. You suspect that Master Celestial Master Zhang has something to do with what happened 12 years ago. And what kind of role will Master Celestial Master Zhang play in the second match that is about to begin? Chen Zhao nodded. What Aluntarai said was exactly what Chen Zhao was hesitating about. This time, it was Manet's turn to speak. Guild leader, you don't have to worry about whether the prophecy is accurate or not. All signs point to the fact that when the second match begins, an accident will definitely occur. This is almost inevitable. What you need to determine now is not whether an accident will occur or not, but whether this accident is the ultimate goal of the mastermind behind the scenes, or whether it is just to attract attention. After the accident occurs, what will the guild leader do? Quell the accident, eliminate the person who caused the accident, or stand by and watch? Of course. Chen Zhao stopped talking. He'd taken it for granted, but now he realized that what he was truly confused about was his position. Actually, guild leader, you don't have to think so complicated. When you encounter a problem, you solve it. It's just that simple. It has nothing to do with Master Celestial Master Zhang or the organizers. It's just the guild leader's position. As long as you stick to your principles and responsibilities, you'll be able to answer to yourself and the organizers. No one can blame the guild leader for his failure. Chen Zhao was enlightened. He instantly understood. Secondly, Master Celestial Master Zhang. It's not that you don't understand his position, but that you're conflicted. If Master Celestial Master Zhang is the one who caused all this, what will you do? Chen Zhao nodded. Emotionally, he didn't want Zhang Tianyi to be the culprit. However, Zhang Tianyi's attitude made Chen Zhao worried. Zhang Tianyi had the power and ability to do so. I don't think Master Celestial Master Zhang is the mastermind, Manit said. Master Celestial Master Zhang might know some things, or even most of the inside information. But it's too hasty to judge him as the mastermind just like that. Master Celestial Master Zhang might have guessed that something bad would happen. President, you might be Master Celestial Master Zhang's backup. Master Celestial Master Zhang's position should be neutral. He doesn't want the matter to be completely exposed, but he also doesn't want the real mastermind to succeed. So he chose to use his own method to hide the truth. Chen Zhao nodded. Oh, do you two have any missions now? Not yet. You two come to the Baku Islands immediately and be my temporary strategists. I'm having a headache right now. I thought it was just normal labor, but I have to waste my brain cells. So troublesome. I'll send a plane to pick you up. The two were overjoyed. After all, they could receive Chen Zhao's favor and be put in an important position. This was a precious opportunity for them. The core members of the supernatural organization were all old members. Those who joined later could hardly be called core members anymore. There was only one way to become a new core member. Get Chen Zhao's approval. But most official members couldn't even come into contact with Chen Zhao, let alone get his approval. Now was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. They were official members, but their potential was very average. They clearly recognized their strengths and weaknesses. They were intelligent and couldn't catch up to the captain-level members in terms of strength. It would even be difficult for the others in the team to catch up. But they weren't irreplaceable. So they also felt a sense of urgency. They didn't want to be eliminated. If they wanted to become an unshakable member, they had to increase their value. Chen Zhao's approval was undoubtedly their only shortcut. Chen Zhao had Famutus fly the plane back to pick up Aluntarai and Manet. Chen Zhao didn't want to be led by the nose by Zhang Tianyi. So, when Zhang Tianyi privately came to find him today, he didn't give any reply. Who knew if any of his replies were within Zhang Tianyi's plan? The next day, Aluntarai and Manet arrived at the Baku Islands. Chen Zhao received them at the airport. I'll take you to the hotel first. Chapter 3120. President. Both of them were in awe of Chen Zhao. The more they knew, the more they feared Chen Zhao. He was a true godslayer. And not just one. Even the famous god of war, Ares, was working for Chen Zhao now. Chen Zhao wasn't famous, but this didn't stop them from being in awe of him. President, is there any news today? The rules for the second round haven't been announced yet, Chen Zhao said. Most of the contestants are preparing. Let's go eat something first. We'll talk while we eat. Chen Zhao found a nice restaurant, and the three of them sat down. Because they were facing Chen Zhao, Aluntarai and Manet were both a bit reserved. They didn't dare to eat freely in front of good food. Eat. No need to be so reserved. I don't eat people. Only then did the two relax a bit. But they kept looking at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao didn't start eating. Instead, he said, I met a few contestants in the first round. They helped me find some information. The owner of the 100 Vault Islands is the Egler family, Aluntarai said, putting down her knife and fork. The incident 12 years ago caused Island 67 and Space Nightfall to be sealed. The Egler family suffered heavy losses, but it's not to the point where they can't maintain it. After all, there are many islands with good resources and profits. It's more than enough to maintain the Egler family. That's why they're trying so hard to persuade the Six to restart Island 67 and Space Nightfall. That's why it's strange, Chen Zhao said. If we exclude the profit factor, there must be something in Space Nightfall that the Egler family can't get but can't give up. So, the Egler family is also a suspect in the incident 12 years ago. President, I made a hypothesis, Manet said. Oh, what hypothesis? Chen Zhao and Aluntarai both looked at Manet. Assuming that the mastermind behind that incident is the Egel family, everything seems to make sense. Chen Zhao was still a bit confused, but Aluntarai understood immediately. The Egel family is the master of this place. It's easier for them to carry out any plan than anyone else, and it's easier for them to cover it up. That's why it's understandable that they haven't found any clues in 12 years. Or rather, someone found something. But because the target is the Egel family, they covered it up. Aluntarai said. Also, Celestial Master Zhang's attitude is understandable. He wants the chairman to clean up the mess of the Egler family. Chen Zhao frowned. Old Zhang, that's too much. Guild leader, this is only my guess. There are still many doubts that I haven't solved, Shifeng said, shaking his head. Your speculation is very reasonable. I think it's the truth. Chen Zhao stood up. I'll go find that old bastard now. President, don't go yet. Aluntarai and Manet hurriedly pulled him back. Guild leader, these are only our guesses right now. It's not easy to come to a conclusion. Moreover, we don't have any evidence to prove our guesses, Shifeng said, shaking his head. Chen Zhao was finally persuaded. He felt like he'd really had the urge to go all out with Zhang Tianyi when he was being used. If the Egel family was the culprit, they could have done it at any other time. They wouldn't have needed to do it during the World Supernatural Tournament. Besides, they would have caused so many casualties. From the perspective of profit and the family's development, it's a very unwise move. You have to know that even a person as prestigious as Celestial Master Zhang wouldn't be able to bear the consequences of such casualties, let alone the Egel family, which is in a weakened state. Secondly, if Celestial Master Zhang knows the truth, he has no reason to hide it for the Egel family. He doesn't need to worry so much. The Egel family doesn't have the right to have Celestial Master Zhang cover up the truth. I'm getting more and more confused. Earlier, you said that Zhang Tianyi has a reason to cover up for the Egel family. Now, You're saying that the Eagle family doesn't have the right to have Zhang Tianyi cover up for them. President, you said ability first and motive second. For example, if you discover that someone in the association is doing something harmful to the association, you have the ability to cover up for that person, but you don't have the motive. In other words, if Zhang Tianyi has the ability to cover up for the Eagle family, he also has the ability to cover up for others. Is the mastermind one of the big six? Chen Zhao muttered to himself. The entire meal was filled with Alantari and Manet's speculations, but they couldn't come to a conclusion. They had too little information at the moment. Even if Alantari and Manet were ridiculously smart, they couldn't be omniscient. Chen Zhao stood up to pay the bill. Alantari and Manet both had the urge to fight for the bill, but after seeing the bill, they both remained silent. Sir, you've already paid the bill. Already paid? How come I don't remember? The cashier pointed at a middle-aged man sitting nearby. That man paid for you. Chen Zhao looked in the direction the cashier was pointing at. The middle-aged man nodded slightly. Chen Zhao walked over. Sir, do we know each other? Please forgive my rudeness. I'm Moraiser Eagle. Eagle? Chen Zhao couldn't help but study Moraiser Eagle seriously. You must be the new referee of this year's World Supernatural Competition, Mr. Chen. Hi, I am. Can we talk? You should be interested in the world of Ether in the second round, right? If you're here to explain something to me, then there's no need. I'm not a cop. Mr. Chen, I don't want to explain anything to you. I just want to ask you something. What is it? To protect my family. I don't understand. Chen Zhao really didn't understand. To put it simply, we're hiring you. Hiring me? Can you afford it? Chen Zhao asked arrogantly. Mr. Chen, since you're one of the best, we'll naturally offer you a price worthy of the best. Maurice Eagle's tone was neither servile nor overbearing. Although the Eagle family has declined, the Eagle family's wealth hasn't disappeared. Whether it's resources in the spiritual world or currency, as long as Mr. Chen agrees, we can afford it. You should know that I don't have time. After all, I'm the referee of the World Supernatural Competition. I can't give up my job to be your bodyguard. As long as it's during the second round. Then I don't have time. You should know that the second round won't be so peaceful, and Zhang Tianyi won't give me a holiday. Chapter 31-21. Chen Zhao didn't really like or dislike the Egler family. So although Chen Zhao rejected the Egler family's offer in person, he still gave Moraiser enough face. Mr. Chen, it's in the ether world, Moraiser said. Actually, you're protecting a contestant, my daughter Monica. Actually, the person I'm asking you to protect is a contestant, my daughter Monica, said Moraiser Eigler. Do you think it's appropriate for me to follow your daughter when I'm enforcing the law? Actually, you want her to follow you. You can bring her wherever you go. What's the reward? $200 million or magic materials of the same value. As expected of an old family, spending $200 million easily. Even Chen Zhao wasn't that generous. Up until now, Chen Zhao's two biggest expenses were the private jet and the yacht. These two expenses were actually investments and necessary expenses. But in order to hire a temporary bodyguard for his daughter, Moraiser Egler actually spent $200 million. Let me think about it. Okay, I hope you'll have good news. Here's my name card. Moraiser didn't continue. He politely handed over his name card and left first. Chen Zhao returned to Alantari and Manet. He repeated the conversation he had with Merit-her Egler. It might be a smokescreen, Alantari said. He purposely revealed that his daughter is in danger to lower his suspicion. But it's $200 million. Using $200 million to prove his innocence seems a bit expensive, Manet said. Even Chen Zhao felt a bit suffocated, let alone the others. $200 million. What kind of concept was that? $200 million was almost enough for someone to do whatever they wanted in American soil. But now, $200 million was only used to hire a temporary bodyguard. President, I don't think the Egler family is the mastermind. Why? You said it yourself. He might have purposely spent $200 million to clear his suspicion. President, if they want to clear their suspicions, they'll find someone more important to do so. Fundamentally speaking, this matter actually has nothing to do with you. If they're really the culprit behind the scenes, they'll use the $200 million on Celestial Master Zhang instead of you. It could also be to avoid suspicion. If they directly threw $200 million at Zhang Tianyi, it would almost be publicly announcing that they were the masterminds behind the scenes. If they threw $200 million at me, let's not talk about whether I would pursue the matter or not. This way, they could clear their suspicions and get on my good side. Isn't that good? Guild leader, this is where the problem lies. If they hadn't taken out $200 million, we wouldn't have so many speculations. Now that they've taken out $200 million, they've become even more suspicious of the Eagle family. Hence, a smart person would do nothing at a time like this instead of throwing out $200 million. Alright, I can't keep up with the thoughts of smart people like you. Chen Zhao scratched his head. Then do you think I should accept this $200 million? No, this employment request? Putting aside all the conspiracies, President, I don't think you have any reason to reject a request of $200 million. Okay, then accept it. President, please don't be so reluctant when accepting $200 million. I'm sure you don't know me well. $200 million is only my income for 4 days. Aluntarai and Manit didn't feel good at all. You can reimburse me for your daily expenses in the Baiku Islands. With that, Chen Zhao led the way and left. In the next 2 days, Chen Zhao kept investigating. Actually, it really didn't have much to do with Chen Zhao. Even if all the contestants died, Chen Zhao wouldn't feel anything. However, Elite and Helis had both participated in the competition. Chen Zhao was more worried that something would happen to them. Zhang Tianyi had been secretly testing Chen Zhao for the past 2 days. Chen Zhao felt that something was going on. It was a bad feeling, because Chen Zhao always felt that Zhang Tianyi was scheming against him. This was also why Chen Zhao had called Aluntarai and Manit over. In terms of scheming, Chen Zhao really couldn't beat Zhang Tianyi. But with Aluntarai and Manit protecting him, Chen Zhao felt much more at ease. Chen Zhao, have you thought about what I said the other day? Zhang Tianyi came to find him again. What is it? You'll take care of everything. If anything happens in the ether world, you'll take care of it. Can't you take care of everything yourself? Don't tell me you can't take care of it. The top person in the world shouldn't be so cowardly. Fuck, you're the top person in the world now, okay? Then I'll be frank. No, I haven't even replied to the $200 million deal. I don't have time for you. I'll give you a much higher price than the Egler family. Oh, looks like you also know that the Egler family is looking for me. Chen Zhao looked at Zhang Tianyi mockingly. How is it? How's the investigation these days? Since you know that I'm investigating, it seems that you've planted many spies on me, right? Are you feeling guilty? Stop bullshitting. Zhang Tianyi shouted angrily. Why would I feel guilty? Look, he's angry out of humiliation. Is he going to kill us to silence us? Zhang Tianyi was so angry that his beard stood up. Is this even human? Why don't you just lie down and let me kill you? Anyway, if you're going to hide it from me, I'll just make excuses. I'll just finish the job I promised. You can figure out the rest yourself. Chen Zhao turned and left. Then he called Moraiser Egler. He agreed to Moraiser Egler's employment request. Mr. Chen, when do you have time? You can come and see my daughter first. Chen Zhao had thought that, as the first heir of the Egler family, Monica Egler would also be a beautiful girl. But the truth was not like that. When Chen Zhao saw Monica, she was a 200-kilogram fatty. She looked like a ball. She had brown hair and thick glasses. She did not have the temper of a rich girl. Mr. Chen, hello. I'm Monica. Monica looked at Chen Zhao. I can feel your disappointment. If I say no, will you believe me? Ha! Okay, I'm indeed a bit disappointed. Other than being a spiritualist, I'm also a nutritionist and a bodybuilder. Are you interested in the slimming set? I purposely maintain this body, Monica said. Why? Does it have anything to do with your magic system? It's my personal reason. I can't say much. Okay, I said too much. Do you know what's going to happen on the day of the competition? I'll always be by your side. Chapter 3122. Chen Zhao didn't expect Monica to interact with him. Monica didn't have that arrogant tone, or the temper of a rich girl. She was very respectful to Chen Zhao the judge. Chen Zhao felt that Monica was very different from her father. Monica's father, Mariah Egler, was a pure noble. He was cultured and polite, but his words and actions all exuded a noble's high and mighty. He wouldn't make people feel disgusted, but he gave off a feeling of being 1,000 miles away. Monica was different. She gave Chen Zhao the feeling of a commoner girl. She didn't have an outstanding appearance and spoke like a commoner. She felt like a child in her own family. She was the child of a nouveau riche family. Her living conditions were good, but she didn't have the dogma of a noble. The next day, the contestants all gathered on Island 67. A simple platform was set up on the beach of the island. Zhang Tianyi stood on the stage and used a spell to amplify his voice. He gave a motivational speech to the 1,000 contestants. Then, he arranged for the 1,000 contestants to enter the ether world. Chen Zhao also entered the ether world directly after the speech. He passed through a series of twists and turns in the cave. There were still some dangers along the way, but that was for ordinary people. Slightly stronger cultivators couldn't pose a threat. Not to mention Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao had a lot of experience in moving underground and finding paths. Soon, he found the path to the ether world. He had to admit that when he saw the ether world, he was also shocked by the scene before him. Black volcanoes rose from the ground. Clouds filled with sulfur curled up and formed a dome. Below them was an endless green sea. But what surprised Chen Zhao was that under the clouds, there was a galaxy that crossed the entire ether world. At the same time, it was also the galaxy that brought light to the ether world. The Milky Way was made up of many huge light spheres. Hundreds of thousands of huge light sources filled the ether world with light. Chen Zhao was curious. He flew into the air and approached one of the light spheres. It was an energy sphere with a diameter of about 3 to 4 meters. The energy sphere was spinning slowly. It attracted the surrounding sulfur smoke and turned it into glowing energy. Chen Zhao reached out to touch it. The moment he touched it, the energy sphere exploded. The powerful energy sent Chen Zhao flying. Chen Zhao was surprised. He had only wanted to analyze the structure and energy form of the energy ball. However, this energy ball was very xenophobic. Even a little bit of external energy directly broke the energy balance of the energy sphere. Chen Zhao was even more curious about this thing's structure and energy form. He looked at the energy ball in the sky in a daze. Although one had exploded, the sky was filled with them, and they were like a river of stars. Therefore, it wouldn't have much of an impact. Chen Zhao was curious about where the stars in the sky came from and how they were formed. Unfortunately, he couldn't figure anything out in such a short amount of time. Chen Zhao shook his head. He could only give up. At this time, the contestants had entered one after another. There was more than one path leading to the Taishi world on Island 67, and they were very widely distributed. Some of the tunnels even went below the surface of the sea. He took out his phone and opened the GPS. It didn't take long for him to locate Monica. When Chen Zhao rushed to Monica's side, there was a magical beast lying beside her. "Looks like I'm not late." "Mr. Chen," Monica greeted politely. Chen Zhao glanced at the magical beast lying on the ground. With a curl of his finger, one of its teeth flew into his hand. Actually, the $200 million wasn't just for hiring Chen Zhao as Monica's temporary bodyguard. It was also for advancing. After all, if Monica stayed by Chen Zhao's side, then she wouldn't be able to do anything, let alone advance. Therefore, her advancement naturally fell on Chen Zhao. "Since your father hired me to protect you, you should know where the danger comes from, right?" Chen Zhao asked meaningfully. Monica shook her head. "I only found out not long ago. I'm also confused. After all, I always set off alone during my graduation trip without anyone following me. But I didn't encounter any danger either. I don't understand why the competition this time needs to hire me." "Hire you, Mr. Chen? Do you know about the accident that happened in the Taishi world 12 years ago?" Monica glanced at Chen Zhao. She could also feel his intentions. His intentions were too obvious. He wanted to get some information from Monica. However, Chen Zhao's methods were a bit rough. He didn't hide anything. I know about the accident 12 years ago, but I don't know how it's directly related to you protecting me. I want to know too. Chen Zhao chuckled. This road is really hard to walk on. Monica wasn't a girl from a rich family. However, even she was annoyed by the dense forest. It was too torturous. There wasn't even a single path. Almost all directions were blocked by dense vegetation. Just then, a figure flew over their heads. However, it wasn't a magical beast, but a contestant. The contestant didn't notice Chen Zhao and Monica below. Looks like walking is really troublesome, Chen Zhao sighed. Sorry, I'm Mr. Chen's burden now. Since Monica could participate in the competition, she definitely had the ability. However, she couldn't fly. This was also one of her disadvantages. Just then, Monica suddenly felt her body lighten. Her body seemed to be lifted up by an invisible hand. Monica was shocked. Of course, she knew that this was Chen Zhao's power. However, wouldn't it be too exhausting? Mr. Chen, you don't have to be like this. I was just complaining. I didn't mean anything else. Chen Zhao also flew up. It's indeed inconvenient to walk. Flying is more suitable. Plus, I don't have that much time to waste on the ground. Monica was lifted into the air by Chen Zhao. Seeing how relaxed Chen Zhao was, Monica also relaxed a little. However, the higher Chen Zhao flew, the more terrified Monica became. Of course, Chen Zhao didn't fly too high. After all, there were sulfur clouds thousands of meters in the air. To Monica, this was a forbidden area. Also, it was dangerous if she got too close to the galaxy. She would explode with a single touch. Who could take it? Just then, Monica looked into the distance. There were some magic waves there. It was very faint, but she could feel it from so far away. It meant that the battle was intense. There's a battle over there. Should we go take a look? In Monica's opinion, since she could see it, Chen Zhao definitely could. Chen Zhao looked in the direction Monica pointed and shook his head. No need. It's a battle between contestants and magical beasts. The contestants won't be in danger. Chapter 31-23. Just then Monica felt her body fall rapidly. Her falling speed was much faster than free fall. She was so scared that she danced in the air. Help! Help me! Monica frantically searched for Chen Zhao. She thought that Chen Zhao couldn't keep going, so she fell from the sky. But just as she was about to be smashed into meat paste, she suddenly stopped falling. She paused too, but she didn't feel any discomfort. Chen Zhao had already landed on the ground. Mr. Chen just now. Chen Zhao waved his hand and pointed forward. A black demonic beast was staring at them menacingly. Taiga beast. Monica's expression changed. She was about to explain how terrifying it was when she saw its neck and body twisted into a dough twist. Then the beast's eyeball fell into Chen Zhao's hand. Monica's eyeball almost fell out. So simple? She knew that taiga beasts were disaster-level magical beasts. Furthermore, it was a calamity-level magical beast. They were almost god-level. Her family would organize expeditions to explore the taiga world every year. The biggest headache for the expeditions was encountering taiga beasts. Not only were taiga beasts powerful, but they were also very smart and sharp. They weren't powerful for attacking their prey head-on. Instead, they hid and waited for an opportunity to attack. More often than not, the moment they were discovered was the moment a person died. Rustle! Just then they heard footsteps behind them. The two contestants appeared behind Chen Zhao and Monica. They saw the taiga beast's corpse before Chen Zhao and Monica, and the beast's eyeball in Chen Zhao's hand. Their eyes brightened. They clearly recognized the taiga beast. Every part of the taiga beast was a treasure. A complete corpse like this could be sold for a few million on the market. Of course, the most important thing was that the spoils could be used to exchange for points to advance. Leave the spoils. You two scram. Chen Zhao turned around and looked at the two. You want to rob me? The competition doesn't prohibit robbing. So don't talk about morals and laws with me. I'm not talking about morals and laws. I just want to confirm that you really want to rob me. Huh? Do you think we're joking? Both contestants laughed, not seeming to realize the seriousness of the situation. Not just you but her too. Monica looked at the two contestants with sympathy. It was good to have a bodyguard. Since that's the case, I'll rob you too. The two contestants narrowed their eyes at him. Looks like you're very confident in your abilities. But where's your companion? Are you sure she wants to die with you? It was very simple to sow discord. What if Chen Zhao and Monica were both contestants? If they are just partners, perhaps the other party would succeed in sowing discord. Monica smiled and said, his thoughts are my thoughts. His decision is my decision. Looks like you guys want to be directly eliminated. Don't worry, Chen Zhao said, smiling. You won't be eliminated. I just want your loot. Both contestants' faces darkened. One cast spells from afar, while the other charged at Chen Zhao. One of them was a long-range attacker, while the other was a melee attacker. Their teamwork was quite good. Chen Zhao lifted a foot, and the contestant who had charged at him was sent flying. His body pierced dozens of meters through the air, creating a ditch on the ground. The one at the back hadn't even finished preparing a spell. Chen Zhao walked toward the contestant step by step. The long-range attacker panicked even more. His spell, which was only halfway through its channeling, also collapsed in panic. The contestant hurriedly cast a shield on himself. But the next moment, Chen Zhao's palm tore through the shield and grabbed the contestant's neck. He had lost. He had lost completely. But what was more humiliating was that Chen Zhao was shaking the contestant's leg with one hand. Everything on the contestant was tossed out. Then Chen Zhao tossed the contestant aside. What could be more humiliating than this? In the end, he only had the teeth of two disaster-level magical beasts. Let's go. Monica stood in front of the contestant on the ground. Look, this is why he made the decision. Then Monica followed Chen Zhao. She also understood why Chen Zhao was the judge. At first, Monica thought that she was already very outstanding. She thought that she wasn't that far from the top. But after seeing Chen Zhao, she finally understood that it wasn't a gap anymore. It was a chasm. Monica didn't need to worry about advancing at all. Not long ago, a pitiful god-level magical beast ran into their field of vision. Then Chen Zhao broke its neck, just like the other magical beasts before it. It died on sight. There was no room for negotiation. In Monica's eyes, god-level magical beasts were almost undefeatable. But when a god-level magical beast faced Chen Zhao, their roles seemed to be reversed. Monica didn't know how many points the others had accumulated, but she felt that her points were enough to advance. Chen Zhao's efficiency in helping her accumulate points was too high. In this dangerous world, it was like Chen Zhao's back garden. It was like Chen Zhao's back garden. Mr. Chen, it should be enough, right? Monica watched as Chen Zhao broke another magical beast's neck. One disaster-level magical beast, 1 point. Killing a disaster-level magical beast was the same as killing a god-level magical beast. It was as if both were the same to Chen Zhao. Actually, with a god-level magical beast as his foundation, he basically had enough points to advance. There were 256 people who could advance this time. About 1/5? And a god-level magical beast was 99 points. Monica felt that it was enough to enter the top 10. Okay. Chen Zhao pulled out the magical beast's tooth and tossed it to Monica. This magical beast looks so ugly. It should be high level, right? Monica looked at Chen Zhao silently. As expected, he didn't know the level of the magical beasts in the world of space. This was really frustrating. He was probably the only one who could kill a god-level magical beast like a disaster-level one. Suddenly, Chen Zhao looked into the distance. Monica noticed his gaze. Did something happen? Over there. Chen Zhao didn't explain much. He picked up Monica and flew into the sky. Monica felt the scenery in front of her keep retreating. About 10 seconds later, she landed on the ground again. But she didn't expect something. The two contestants she'd met half an hour ago. Now they'd appeared before her again. However, after encountering Chen Zhao, the two contestants seemed to be haunted by bad luck. They'd encountered a god-level magical beast. When the two contestants saw Chen Zhao and Monica land, they were overjoyed. Immediately he was overjoyed. Quick, help us. Let's team up and get rid of this demonic beast. We'll definitely be able to advance. Chen Zhao turned his head to look at the magical beast before him. He recognized it. It was an earth demon dragon. Chapter 31-24. The Earth Demon Dragon had another name. It was a rather peaceful name called Silence. The reason why the Earth Demon Dragon had such a name was because of the characteristics of the Earth Demon Dragon. Although it was called Earth Demon Dragon, it actually didn't have the bloodline of a dragon. The Earth Demon Dragon would launch different attacks based on the volume of the target's voice. Thus, when facing the Earth Demon Dragon, the best choice was to remain silent. The two contestants clearly didn't know the name of the Earth Demon Dragon. So, when they saw Chun Zhao and Monica, they immediately started yelling and screaming. Instantly, the Earth Demon Dragon moved. Its huge body appeared behind the two contestants without any warning. The two contestants immediately felt a terrifying aura behind them. Their bodies stiffened, they slowly turned their heads. Ah! Help! The two fearless contestants screamed even louder. Chun Zhao frowned. The Earth Demon Dragon bit down. The two contestants would die for sure. Chun Zhao finally moved. With a wave of his hand, the Earth Demon Dragon was sent flying. Boom! The Earth Demon Dragon was smashed hundreds of meters away. Monica looked at Chun Zhao in shock. This was the first time she saw Chun Zhao attack. A real attack. Before this, Chun Zhao hadn't moved at all. He could kill any magical beast instantly. But this time, Chun Zhao actually attacked. Chun Zhao had to. The Earth Demon Dragon was different from ordinary magical beasts. Its upper limit was very high. It was even higher than Shangqing Realm cultivators. The two contestants' eyes almost fell out. We should get a share of its spoils too, right? We should get a share too, right? The two pulled Chun Zhao. A god-level magical beast can be split among 5 people. We should all get a share, right? Chun Zhao only thought that the two were noisy. He glanced at them. No, you're eliminated. What did you say? How can you say we're eliminated? Chun Zhao ignored the two. Just then, the Earth Demon Dragon charged back at an astonishing speed. At the same time, as the Earth Demon Dragon charged forward, lava spewed out of the ground continuously. Gravel flew up too. The Earth Demon Dragon's element was earth and fire. It could control the earth and lava. Seeing such a ferocious Earth Demon Dragon, the two contestants were scared out of their wits. Fuck off. Chun Zhao pushed the two contestants away. He reached out with one hand and pushed the Earth Dragon's chin. Chun Zhao followed up with an uppercut. The demonic Earth Dragon fell to the ground, but it crawled back up in the next moment. The power of the demonic Earth Dragon had been revealed. There weren't many people who could face Chun Zhao head-on. Even fewer could take a punch from Chun Zhao. Of course, this was also because Chun Zhao had shown mercy. Chun Zhao had already killed a god-level magical beast. These were the points for Monica's advancement. Therefore, Chun Zhao didn't need to kill one more. Zhang Tianyi had told him to try his best not to kill the deity-level demonic beasts of the Tai Long world. After all, there weren't many deity-level magical beasts here. Killing one meant one less. Once, when Chun Zhao went underground, he encountered an Earth Demon Dragon. Later on, he found records of the demonic dragon in an ancient book, so he had a deep impression of it. This thing was indeed very resistant to beatings. Moreover, the recipes were quite rich. When there was nothing to eat, rocks could also fill one's stomach. He could even drink a few mouthfuls of lava. If there was prey, living creatures could also fill their stomachs. It wasn't difficult to kill the demonic Earth Dragon either. However, it was useless to just destroy their external bodies. The demonic Earth Dragon had a core. As long as the core wasn't destroyed, they could continuously absorb energy from the earth and lava to repair their bodies. Fighting the demonic Earth Dragon would definitely create a loud sound. At least, such punches wouldn't be silent. This also caused the demonic Earth Dragon's strength to keep increasing. Of course, there was a limit to this kind of strengthening. Nothing was truly invincible. Even Chun Zhao didn't dare to say that he was invincible, let alone the demonic Earth Dragon. However, if he didn't kill it, it wouldn't stop bothering him. Chun Zhao decided to give it a vicious one. Chun Zhao suddenly punched and pierced through the demonic Earth Dragon's chest. It left a 2-meter wide hole in its chest. The remaining power even shook the demonic Earth Dragon's core. As expected, the demonic Earth Dragon was scared. It flipped over and fled without even repairing the hole in its chest. Chun Zhao exhaled. It finally ran away. If it continued to be stubborn, Chun Zhao would probably kill it. Why didn't you kill it? It's a god-level magical beast. You clearly have the power. Hurry up and chase after it and kill it. How can you let it go? Chen Zhao hated people who didn't know their place and didn't know when to stop. The two contestants immediately felt their bodies being restrained. Chen Zhao picked up his phone. Coordinates 544,144-1. Two contestants eliminated. Chen Zhao sent the coordinates to the person in charge of elimination. The person in charge of eliminating contestants was also the judge. The main person in charge was the 23rd generation Blood Mary. She was in charge of the backline. Under normal circumstances, she wouldn't appear. Specialized departments would take over. When the two contestants saw Chen Zhao contact the eliminated team members, they realized that Chen Zhao wasn't a contestant but a judge. Both of their faces immediately turned red. Thinking back to their previous actions, they wanted to crawl into a hole. It was so embarrassing. They actually dared to steal the prize from the judge. Then they even wanted to split the prize with Chen Zhao. The first time was fine, but the second time was when their lives were in danger. Chen Zhao's action meant that they were eliminated. The judges would only act when the contestants were in danger. They would choose whether or not to act based on their own judgment. When the judges felt that they had to act, it meant that the contestants' lives were in danger. This also meant that they couldn't continue the competition. Unfair. It's unfair. She's a contestant too. Why can she get your protection? Why are we eliminated? This world is unfair, Chen Zhao said indifferently. Plus, do you have the right to talk about fairness with me? Their faces turned red. Even though they were angry that Chen Zhao had embarrassed them. They were angry that Chen Zhao had embarrassed them. But it was hard for them to retort. Not long after, the members of the elimination department arrived. They both wore masks. After confirming Chen Zhao's identity, they took the two contestants away. Technically, I'm also cheating, right? Monica said emotionally. After all, the two contestants had been eliminated right in front of her. No, you're not eliminated because you paid $200 million. If everyone can get a promotion spot after paying $200 million, I think the organizers would be willing to sell it publicly. It's just a competition. The promotion spot is really expensive. But I'm curious. Since the Egler family is so rich, logically speaking, you should be able to get a top contestant, right? But not only did you not, you're also so weak. Only a few of you have awakened. I really don't understand. Chapter 31-25. When Chen Zhao first heard about the Egler family, he didn't think much of it. But then he realized that something wasn't right. The Egler family wasn't a millennium-old family, but it had a few hundred years of history. At its peak, the family's influence and power weren't inferior to Chen Zhao's former enemy, the millennium-old Filer family. The Filer family had been isolated from the world for hundreds of years. They had almost no contact with the spiritual world. They only had commercial activities. But even so, the Filer family could still maintain a strong fighting force. They could scoop up a few top fighters. Those few top fighters weren't enough to face a real top fighter. They were at most second-rate. But it wasn't hard to see the power and foundation of a millennium-old family. The Egler family wasn't any weaker than the Filer family. Plus, the Egler family didn't have any great enemies, nor did they ruin the family's reputation. So the Egler family had been in contact with the spiritual world for hundreds of years. For example, the World Supernatural Competition. The Egler family even used the 100 Ku Islands as the competition venue. It was clear that the Egler family was quite influential. But it was such an influential family. Not to mention a peerless combat power. Even the family only had 5 awakened. 2 of them were children. What was this? Was this the foundation a top family should have? Unless all the members of the Egler family were infertile. Otherwise, it was hard to imagine how such a big family could be so weak. The Egler family wasn't a small family. They didn't have money or resources. The Egler family was very rich, and had the 100 Ku Islands. They didn't lack resources. They could easily take out $200 million and throw it at Chen Zhao's face. It had nothing to do with being poor. As long as they had money and resources, even a pig could become a top fighter. So Chen Zhao didn't believe that the Egler family only had 5 awakened like the rumors said. Plus, the father and daughter Monica and Maurice that Chen Zhao had interacted with so far weren't rich kids. As the patriarch, Merit Agel was obviously well-educated and cultured. Although they did not interact much with Chen Zhao, few people would feel enmity towards someone like Meriwether Agler. He always knew how to maintain friendships. Although Monica didn't seem to have her father's aristocratic upbringing. However, she was also a humble and smart girl. Her appearance was not outstanding, so people might think that she was a brainless fat woman. But in reality, being fat was just her disguise. Chen Zhao could feel that Monica was a rather meticulous and smart girl. Both father and daughter had powerful genes, and they were able to unleash their full potential. With such powerful genes and a good family upbringing, it was impossible for him to survive. Chen Zhao didn't believe that the powerful Agel family would weaken for no reason. Of course, in principle, this was their family's own private secret. Chen Zhao didn't really want to ask. However, Chen Zhao was worried that the secret would affect the safety of the match. In terms of his duty, he really didn't want to meddle in other people's business. But if something really happened, it was impossible for Chen Zhao to stay out of it. As for whether Monica knew what was going on, Chen Zhao couldn't tell either. After all, Chen Zhao wasn't an intellectual type. Besides, Monica wasn't the enemy. Therefore, Chen Zhao couldn't be suspicious just because of a little. He would pull out Monica's tendons and skin her, so that she would tell the truth. However, Chen Zhao believed that if something really happened, Monica would be the most important person. Monica followed Chen Zhao from time to time. Ever since the 2 contestants were eliminated, Monica had stopped walking. Ever since the 2 contestants were eliminated, Chen Zhao hadn't killed another magical beast. More accurately, he hadn't encountered one on his own. Every time he encountered one, it meant that there were contestants present. It also meant that some contestants would be eliminated. Clearly, Chen Zhao was avoiding the magical beasts on purpose. Mr. Chen, your perception range is really large. Yes, from what I know, there shouldn't be more than 3 people in the world with a greater perception range than mine. Is there anyone else with greater perception than Mr. Chen? One of them is the person who taught me this technique. He's also one of the judges this year, the leader of the fire worship sect, Mr. Bifla. For people like Chen Zhao, magic and whatnot were secondary. At most, he would teach them techniques. What about the other 2? The other one is the main judge, Zhang Tianyi, Chen Zhao said with a shrug. Monica agreed with this. One had taught Chen Zhao, so his perception definitely wouldn't be lower than Chen Zhao's. The other was Zhang Tianyi. As the top person in the spiritual world, this name wasn't out of Monica's expectations. What about the third person? I don't know. I'll leave one empty. I think there'll be 1 or 2 people, Chen Zhao said casually. Suddenly his expression changed. Someone's in trouble again. Looks like the elimination rate here is really high. That's right, Chen Zhao said casually. Monica immediately prepared herself. She rose into the air and fell. Although she was mentally prepared, she still felt extremely uncomfortable at such a high speed. Help! Help! Seeing Chen Zhao and Monica land, the contestant ran toward Chen Zhao, covered in wounds. Chen Zhao frowned at the magical beast that was chasing him. This magical beast seemed different. The magical beast panted heavily. Saliva dripped from its slightly cracked mouth. It had no pupils. Its eyes were completely black. Chen Zhao could clearly feel that it was of the fire and wind element, but black lightning flowed on its body. It wasn't a god-tier magical beast, but it vaguely exuded the might of a god-tier magical beast. Chen Zhao raised his hand and grabbed at the magical beast. Huh! Chen Zhao was stunned. No reaction. Chen Zhao realized that he'd lost control of his efficiency. More accurately, he'd lost control of the small world around the magical beast. The next moment, a black lightning bolt suddenly shot out of the magical beast and struck Chen Zhao. Boom! With a huge explosion, Chen Zhao was sent flying. Monica was shocked. What happened? The magical beast actually hurt Chen Zhao? The begging contestant was filled with despair. He'd thought that his savior had come. He didn't expect Chen Zhao to be so useless. Chen Zhao stood up in a sorry state. He felt his small world. It was operating normally, but there was an empty area. It was where the magical beast was. His small world had been neutralized by the magical beast's power? Chen Zhao was even more shocked. How did it happen? Just then, a person walked out from behind the magical beast. The person stood beside the magical beast, and it didn't attack him. I heard that there's a new judge this year. Is that you? Chapter 31:26. Judge? You're the judge? The contestant who'd asked for help earlier was shocked. The next moment, disappointment appeared on his face. Why are you so weak? Chen Zhao and Monica ignored the contestant. The uninvited guest also ignored him. He was an insignificant, transparent person. The uninvited guest looked at Monica. Monica, you don't seem to recognize me. Chen Zhao looked at Monica. You recognize him? Monica frowned and thought for a while. Then she shook her head. I don't have any impression of him. Chen Zhao looked at the uninvited guest. Sir, it seems like you got the wrong person. Ha! You don't seem to be worth $200 million at all. Chen Zhao shrugged. If you judge based on that, you'll probably die a horrible death. What if it's them? The uninvited guest raised his hand and waved. Magical beasts walked out of the forest one after another. Chen Zhao was dazed. These magical beasts were the same as the previous one. They could both neutralize Chen Zhao's pocket world. Chen Zhao's senses were also in a hurry to enter the pocket world. So they were transparent. If Chen Zhao didn't sense them specifically, he wouldn't be able to discover them. After all, he could sense hundreds of square kilometers. Without a square kilometer, even Chen Zhao would find it hard to discover them. These magical beasts weren't actually very strong. They were at the peak of the calamity level, close to God level. The person seemed to be confident in this battle. Monica, I suggest you come with me. He can't protect you. What if I refuse? Monica looked at the stranger. It doesn't matter to me. Whether you obey or resist, it won't change anything, the person said. Then he looked at Chen Zhao. Am I right? Chen Zhao chuckled. You're the first person who dares to ask me this. Fine. Looks like I need to kill a judge to prove my ability. The person waved his hand. A few magical beasts beside him suddenly pounced at Chen Zhao. Monica's face showed some concern. The contestant's face was filled with despair. In the blink of an eye, a magical beast's bloody mouth covered Chen Zhao. It swallowed Chen Zhao alive. That person revealed a hint of a smile. How weak. But the next moment, the magical beast that had swallowed Chen Zhao exploded. Chen Zhao stood there calmly, as if nothing had happened. So weak. Chen Zhao said the same thing. The corner of that person's eye twitched slightly. However, the dozens of demonic beasts around him were innately the bane of the small world. He was still confident in his victory, so he still had a victorious smile on his face. Now, let me demonstrate why I am the referee. Chen Zhao stretched his limbs. Primordial regression technique, level 1. Chen Zhao's aura changed. That person's eyelids twitched, clearly having a premonition that something bad was about to happen. Suddenly Chen Zhao disappeared. An ear-piercing sound pierced through the air. The man's ears couldn't take it anymore. He covered his ears, but couldn't stop the piercing pain. Then he saw the scene of the magical beasts beside him exploding. However, the scene was like a slow-motion scene in a movie. Blood splattered everywhere as magical beasts exploded one by one. It was a chaotic mix of fast and slow. Dozens of terrifying demonic beasts actually exploded in an instant. When the piercing sound stopped, Chen Zhao returned to his original spot. From start to finish, only a second had passed. Perhaps not even a second. All the magical beasts had turned into fireworks of blood and flesh. Monica and that person were both dumbfounded. Was there only a beginning in their minds? But in reality, it was already over. Chen Zhao looked at that person. Next you will die. Wait. You misunderstood. I'm not an enemy. The person hurriedly called out. My enemies often answer me like this when they beg for mercy. But guess if I believe them or not. I'm serious, the person said. I'm not an enemy. I'm Monica's brother. Chen Zhao turned his head to Monica. He said he's your brother? Monica shook her head and said in a very certain tone. I don't know him. And I've never heard that I have a brother. Not even dead ones. Looks like you're not. Chen Zhao looked at that person again. I'm real, the person said hurriedly. I'm Ramat Agel. I'm her older brother. She has a second brother who's here too. You say you're Monica's brother. Do you have any proof? Ramat Agel hurriedly took out a gold pendant and tossed it to Monica. Monica caught the pendant with hesitation in her eyes. You should know this pendant, right? Ramat Agel asked. Monica seemed to recognize this pendant. The pendant could be opened, and there was a small, exquisite, but incomplete gemstone hidden inside. Monica frowned, and also took out a ring from her bosom. The ring was inlaid with a gem, and it just so happened to match the gap in the gem. However, the two were still incomplete when put together. There seemed to be a part missing. Monica nodded at Chen Zhao. Even if you prove that you're Monica's brother that she's never met, it doesn't mean you're safe. You want to kill your sister, so you still have to die. No, I'm not going to kill Monica. I just want to take her away. Her second brother, Tace, and I came here to save Monica, Ramush Agel said. So you know that someone wants to kill Monica. And it's not you and Monica's second brother? Of course we're not going to kill Monica. So you know who wants to kill Monica? It's our father, Ramat Agel said. Stop joking. This doesn't make sense. Chen Zhao shook his head. First, he would spend $200 million to protect Monica, then kill her, increasing the difficulty for him? I know this doesn't make sense, but it's the truth. Our father has been planning something since 30 years ago. Tace and I have been hunted down by our father. Oh right, Monica had a third brother, but he's already dead. It was our father who killed him. That's right. Monica had a third brother, but he's already dead. Compared to you, I'm more willing to believe Mr. Morizer, who spent $200 million to hire me. Chen Zhao was a bit confused. He could vaguely feel Ramat Agel's anxiety and urgency. He seemed to be anxious because he couldn't convince Chen Zhao and Monica. He was also worried about something. But just as Chen Zhao had said, he couldn't go against common sense and believe Ramat Agel's words. Plus, Chen Zhao didn't think that Morizer would be stupid enough to increase the difficulty for him. And it seemed to be very easy for Morizer Agler to kill his daughter. Monica would almost never be on guard against her father. Plus, could a pendant really prove their relationship? You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.